141. The Thunder God. The ninth level of the Xingluo Secret Realm. 22 years old, on the first day of the first month, the enthronement ceremony proceeded smoothly in the new capital, Luoyang. Thanks to Jai Xingzi's efforts, the 3 teachings and 6 sects and the 7 great clans jointly dispatched 11 martial gods to observe the ceremony. Including Jai Xingzi, who had pledged allegiance to you, there were a total of 12 martial gods. Midway through the enthronement ceremony, you activated the killing formation you had long prepared, enveloping all the martial gods present. Immediately, you began a massacre. Under your absolute power suppression, aided by the formation, all the martial gods, including Jai Xingzi, died by your hand. Only Wang Jianyi, the sect master of the Astounding Sword sect, escaped by shattering the Void Realm with his peerless Great Dao weapon, the Astounding Sword. In the Battle of Luoyang, you ambushed and killed 11 martial gods, shocking the world. After this battle, your reputation transformed from the soul-devouring Mad Devil to the world-extinguishing True Devil. Countless forces, terrified, migrated overseas. You did not care about the outside world's opinion of you, instead, you focused on refining the divine souls and thoughts of the many martial gods. 24 years old, you successfully refined and absorbed the divine souls and thoughts of these 11 martial gods. Your divine infant prototype finally reached its 9-inch limit. Afterward, you began undergoing tribulation for the 5th lightning tribulation. With your current strength, passing the 5th lightning tribulation was extremely easy for you. Just as you were about to pass the 5th lightning tribulation, and your divine infant prototype was about to transform into a true divine infant, a lightning divine being suddenly emerged from the depths of the lightning tribulation. He declared that your ability to condense a divine infant with a 5 tribulation body was a heaven-defying anomaly and that you must be killed. After speaking, he used the lightning spear in his hand to suppress and kill you within the lightning clouds. You died. Huh, I'm already invincible, and you throw a lightning divine being at me. Lu Chengsheng felt a headache upon seeing this simulation result. Another variable had appeared, but this time it wasn't from some force on the Tian Yuan continent, it was from within the lightning tribulation. A lightning divine being suddenly jumping out from the depths of the lightning tribulation, declaring him an anomaly and striking him dead, was simply outrageous. As is well known, lightning tribulation is the manifestation of the will of heaven and earth. The will of heaven and earth is usually mechanical and rigid, only acting according to preset rules. The appearance of a lightning being capable of human speech within the lightning tribulation, and its attempt to forcibly suppress and kill him, had never occurred during the tribulation of many previous martial gods. Or was it that his act of condensing a divine infant with a 5 tribulation body was too heaven-defying, thereby attracting the attention of the will of heaven and earth, which came to obliterate him? After all, a prodigy who could condense a complete divine infant during the 5th lightning tribulation had never appeared before. However, Lu Chengsheng's main concern was that since the problem appeared within the lightning tribulation, could he still undergo lightning tribulation in the future? If he didn't undergo lightning tribulation, how would his strength improve? No, I still need to simulate again. I refuse to believe there's no solution. Lu Chengsheng once again took out 8 soul crystals. Simulation ended. You can retain one of the following. 1. The cultivation realm at 24 years old. 2. The cultivation experience at 24 years old. Choose one. In an instant, a massive amount of soul power surged into the divine infant prototype. The 5-inch divine infant prototype began to grow rapidly, until it reached about 9 inches. A 9-inch divine infant prototype is extremely rare, even from ancient times to the present. It was more common before the ancient era. However, after the ancient era, a 9-inch divine infant prototype became almost unseen. There are only a handful of clear records, all of them sages from the Middle Ancient era, such as Laozi, Buddha, Guiguzi, and others. Even Qin Zheng, the first emperor who was invincible 2,000 years ago, only condensed an 8-inch divine infant prototype. Lu Chengsheng, relying on multiple simulations and, in this simulation, slaughtering most of the martial gods on the Tianyuan continent and refining their divine souls, finally achieved a 9-inch divine infant prototype. The soul power absorbed during this process, if calculated in terms of soul crystal, would be an astronomical number. Ordinary martial gods simply could not achieve this step. However, what Lu Chengsheng was most concerned about now was the tribulation problem. If he did not rely on the power of heaven and earth feedback from undergoing tribulation, his 9-inch divine infant prototype would be very difficult to transform into a true divine infant. Recharge 8 soul crystals for me to continue the simulation. Recharge successful. Consuming 8 money. Simulation begins. 17 years old, you condensed a 9-inch divine infant prototype and could undergo the 5th lightning tribulation at any time, but out of fear of encountering the lightning divine being's bombardment and killing, you did not immediately summon the lightning tribulation. 20 years old, for these 3 years, you traveled to various forces on the Tianyuan continent, consulting various ancient texts, yet still found no origin of the lightning divine being, let alone a method to resolve it. Therefore, you decided to open the Star Luo sect secret realm, to see if this ancient sect had any relevant records or solutions. Under your absolute dominance, 6 of the other 8 forces holding a Xingluo sect secret decree quickly obediently handed over their secret decrees to you. The remaining 2 forces, you caused them to turn to ash. A month later, having gathered all 9 Xingluo sect secret decree, you successfully opened the Star Luo secret realm and entered it. Other forces, realizing the conditions for entering the secret realm, were greatly alarmed, never expecting that the invincible Lu Leoma was actually no older than 20 years old. Where did that leave the older generation's reputation? Upon entering the Star Luo secret realm, the secret realm spirit, seeing your 9-inch divine infant prototype, felt incredibly astonished and appeared directly before you. It told you that the first 8 trials were unnecessary. As long as you completed the 9th trial task, it would directly make you the sole successor of the Star Luo sect. You did not rush to agree, but instead asked it about the lightning divine being. The secret realm spirit told you that this should be the doing of someone from the divine court. As long as you pass the 9th trial and become the sole successor of the Star Luo sect, it will tell you everything about the divine court and allow you to successfully undergo tribulation. As expected of one of the 10 great ancient top sects, it truly knows everything. Lu Chengsheng breathed a sigh of relief. He finally didn't have to worry about being unable to undergo tribulation. Others would wish not to undergo tribulation, but Lu Chengsheng wished to undergo tribulation as soon as possible. It was only because he worked too hard, turning the lightning tribulation into an experience monster. But what exactly was the content of this 9th trial? The Star Luo sect's 9 trials were progressively more difficult. The first trial tested age and cultivation, the 2nd to 4th trials tested strength, and the 6th to 8th trials tested aptitude, foundation, and comprehension ability, respectively. Lu Chengsheng, even now, was not confident he could pass the 6th trial. The secret realm spirit exempting him from the first 8 trials was a great benefit. However, this 9th trial was likely even more difficult than the first 8. If he couldn't pass it, he would once again be stuck. 142. The origin of the God Court and the truth of the ancient war, the fangs of the spirit of the secret realm. Is this the assessment for the 9th stage? Lu Chengsheng showed a clear expression. Is this stage very difficult? For others, it was indeed very difficult. First, collecting 9 Star Luo sect secret decrees was almost an impossible task. One must know that those who held the secret decrees were all top forces with martial gods overseeing them. It was almost impossible to make them hand over the treasures they had obtained. Even if it could be done in the end, it would most likely require forming an alliance and jointly dividing the legacy. After that, they also had to collect a large amount of dragon qi, which was almost tantamount to forming a mortal enmity with the great Qin dynasty. No wonder in the simulator, the 3 teachings and 6 sects would slaughter Shenyang Palace decades later. It was likely that after negotiating terms, they began to collect dragon qi. However, although they destroyed the great Qin dynasty, they failed to recreate the universe, instead causing immense disaster for the human race. No wonder they had always kept silent about the contents of the 9th stage of the trial. After all, no one wanted to be pointed at and cursed, especially when most of them were from prestigious sects. However, for Lu Chengsheng, everything was different. His strength had already surpassed all others in the world, and he had no sectarian ties behind him. He only needed to convince people with reason, and others would amicably hand over the secret decrees. As for those who refused, physical elimination would suffice. And absorbing dragon qi would have a huge impact on the great Qin's national fortune. At that time, natural disasters and man-made calamities would follow one after another, and the demon and barbarian clans would also take advantage of the weakness. But these were minor issues. He might not be able to control natural disasters. But as someone who climbed up from the bottom, no one understood better than him how to manage man-made calamities. You patted your chest and guaranteed to the secret realm spirit that you were clearly the one with great wisdom, great perseverance, and a great background. Subsequently, you left the Star Luo secret realm. You had already gathered the 9 secret decrees, and now only needed to collect dragon chi. Before collecting dragon chi, you first swept through the demon and barbarian clans, killing so many that all their martial gods hid overseas. After that, you planned to collect all the dragon chi of the 2 clans into the Star Luo sect secret decrees. Collecting the Yao race's dragon chi went very smoothly, but an accident occurred when collecting the barbarian clan's dragon chi. A divine being descended from the 9 heavens, stating that the barbarian clan was the heavenly Tao appointed dominator of the Tianyuan continent in the future, and anyone who harmed their dragon chi would be killed without mercy. After speaking, the divine being killed you with just one move. Why did another divine being suddenly appear? And he said the barbarian clan was the heavenly Tao appointed dominator. Who was this heavenly Tao? Lu Chengsheng felt that the answer to all this would probably have to be sought from the secret realm spirit. Choose to recharge, continue. His divine infant's form had reached the 9-inch limit. Only by condensing a complete divine infant could he continue to increase his divine soul power. It was better to choose to gain some combat experience. At 17, you convinced people with reason physical, successfully gathered 9 Star Luo sect secret decrees, and entered the Star Luo secret realm. You received the 9th stage trial mission from the secret realm spirit, then left the secret realm and went to the Yao race. You took all the Yao race's dragon chi, filling 4 secret decrees, then returned to the human race and took more than half of Great Qin's dragon chi, finally filling all the remaining 5 secret decrees. During this period, the Great Qin dynasty resisted desperately, but it was like a praying mantis trying to stop a chariot, and was crushed to dust. After completing the 9th stage trial mission, you returned to the Star Luo secret realm. The secret realm spirit first congratulated you on becoming the sole legacy of the Star Luo sect, and then told you everything about the Divine Court. It turned out that the origin of the Divine Court was related to the ancient war 10,000 years ago. The ancient war was not caused by a struggle for resources, but originated from the invasion of extraterrestrial demon race. In other words, the ancient war was a war of ancient cultivators resisting extraterrestrial demon race. That battle was so devastating that the heavens collapsed and the earth split apart. The 10 great ancient sects were almost all annihilated, and even the heavenly Tao was severely wounded, forced to fall into slumber. However, before the heavenly Tao fell into slumber, in order to keep the world running normally, it found 12 martial gods among the surviving powerhouses, and granted them partial authority, allowing them to maintain the operation of world order on its behalf. These 12 heavenly Tao proxies, in order to distinguish themselves from other martial gods, called themselves divine lords, with the strongest among them calling himself God Emperor. The force they established was named the Divine Court. The thunder-hidden divine lord, the thunder divine being you encountered during your undergoing tribulation, was a divine lord who specialized in the Tao of heavenly thunder. The divine court's authority is limited, primarily managing the world where the Tianyuan continent is located. As long as you undergo tribulation in a cave heaven world, it will be difficult for him to determine your specific location, and you naturally won't have to worry about his threat to you anymore. The divine court is actually so astonishing. No wonder earlier in the simulator, searching the entire Tianyuan continent yielded no information about the divine court. Even Zhang Zhao only left a few words. It turned out they were heavenly Tao agents, similar to programmers. Only things within a cave heaven could escape their perception. As for the Tianyuan continent, it was completely under their surveillance. It was simply too easy for them to conceal their whereabouts. Subsequently, you asked the secret realm spirit about the strength of those people. The secret realm spirit told you that they were carefully selected by the heavenly Tao will, and their strength was far more terrifying than ordinary 9 tribulation martial gods. Later, they gained partial heavenly Tao authority and became immortal like the heavens. Now, after 10,000 years, their strength is immeasurable. The secret realm spirit saw that you were a little frightened, so it told you that as long as you fully digested the Star Luo sect legacy, you might not be unable to contend with them. The most urgent task was to first condense a divine infant and improve your strength. Upon hearing this, your confidence was boosted, and you began to undergo your 5th lightning tribulation in the Star Luo secret realm. However, just as you passed the lightning tribulation and condensed a 3-foot divine infant, the secret realm spirit revealed its fangs and performed possession on you. It devoured your divine infant, and you died. This secret realm spirit is also not a good thing. Lu Chengsheng was numb. He originally thought that after obtaining the Star Luo sect legacy, Good days were coming, but he didn't expect the secret realm spirit to also be a cunning old schemer, always coveting his physical body and divine soul. It turns out that this Star Luo's secret realm's selection of a legacy was for itself to choose a suitable possession target. No wonder the requirements were so abnormal. After all, no one wanted to use a defective product. Fortunately, this time he successfully passed the 5th lightning tribulation, otherwise it would have cost him another 8 soul crystals. Now he had less than 100 soul crystals left, so he had to be more frugal from now on. However, simply cutting expenses was not enough, he still had to find ways to increase his income. Simulation ended, you can retain one of the following. 1. The cultivator realm at 17. 2. The cultivation experience at 17. Of course, he would choose one. But he couldn't choose it now. If he chose it, it would definitely attract the 5th lightning tribulation. With Lu Changsheng's current strength, he dared not undergo tribulation on the Tianyuan continent. He needed to find a cave heaven. Bodhi Cave Heaven was not an option for now. Who knew what kind of hidden danger was buried there that hadn't been cleared yet? He heard that the mysterious maiden sect had a mysterious maiden cave heaven. What a coincidence, wasn't it? He helped the mysterious maiden sect solve a major enemy, so it was perfectly reasonable for him to go to the mysterious maiden cave heaven to undergo tribulation, right? 143. The world returns to the ruins, the end of the Qingqiu Fox clan. Lu Changsheng had simulated 3 times, and only half an incense stick of time had passed. However, even in such a short time, it was enough for Ruan Yun to scour all the useful resources from Tiger God Mountain. After all, a martial god could control objects with divine thought, completely eliminating the need to act personally. Under the shroud of divine thought, desired items would fly to them. What took Ruan Yun the most time was breaking through some defensive formations. Soon, Ruan Yun flew back, and with her, more than a dozen human race experts returned. Seeing Lu Changsheng again, Ruan Yun's eyes showed surprise. Even though they had only been separated for a short while, Lu Changsheng felt even more unfathomable to her. A martial god could not have illusions. The only explanation was that Lu Changsheng's strength had significantly increased in that short time. This is Senior Lu, who just now killed hundreds of thousands of tiger demons. Ruan Yun introduced Lu Changsheng to the dozen human race experts. Among these dozen people, only one was in the Faxiong realm, and the others were all in the Dao body realm, but for the human race kept by the Tiger Demon clan, they were indeed considered experts. When they heard that Lu Changsheng had saved them, they all bowed in the air, their eyes welling with tears, saying, "Thank you, esteemed senior, for your life-saving grace, we." Alright, since you have been rescued, quickly help your fellow clansmen return to the human race territory. Lu Changsheng directly interrupted their prepared torrent of thanks. With a wave of his sleeve, a strong wind swept them away, blowing them to who knows where. He was currently busy with his breakthrough. Who had the leisure to chat with this group of people here? Ruan Yun. She had originally wanted Lu Changsheng to experience the reverence of the rescued. Now, it seemed Lu Changsheng did not care for such formalities. Senior Lu, all the cultivation resources from Tiger God Mountain are here. Ruan Yun took out a storage ring. As the lair of the Divine Tiger King, Tiger God Mountain had too many resources. If sold for primeval stones, it would be worth at least hundreds of millions. The mysterious maiden sect had a large enterprise, but it would be difficult to produce so many primeval stones at once. Although Lu Changsheng had just said he would sell it to her at a low price, she could not truly let Lu Changsheng suffer a loss. After much thought, giving him all the resources untouched was the most secure option. As for her own efforts, she would consider it building a good relationship with him. However, Lu Changsheng did not immediately take the storage ring. Instead, he said, "How about I make a deal with Sect Master Ruan using these resources?" These cultivation resources were useless to him. He still had the storage rings of Li Zizai, Luo Song, and the Divine Tiger King, 3 martial gods, all gathering dust in a corner. What he lacked most now were soul crystals. What deal? Ruan Yun was startled. Although these things were not very useful to a martial god, they were extremely useful to the mysterious maiden sect. As long as Lu Changsheng's request was not too difficult, she would definitely agree. Lu Changsheng stated frankly, "I want to undergo a lightning tribulation in your sect's mysterious maiden cave heaven." Upon hearing this, Ruan Yun was silent for a moment, then shook her head with a bitter smile. "This request, I'm afraid I cannot agree to. Is it inconvenient for outsiders to enter?" Lu Changsheng asked. Not exactly, but the mysterious maiden cave heaven is about to return to the void, and if senior undergoes tribulation inside, there might be a risk to his life, Ruan Yun said with a bitter smile. Return to the void? Lu Changsheng was greatly surprised. Returning to the void meant a world was heading towards destruction. Cave heaven worlds had extremely long lifespans, existing for tens of thousands of years was not uncommon. If I recall correctly, your sect's mysterious maiden cave heaven inherited from the Qingyan sect, one of the 10 ancient top sects, right? It should have only been opened for 2 or 3 tens of thousands of years, how could it be returning to the void so quickly? Lu Changsheng asked curiously. The reasons are very complex. If Senior Lu is interested, you can come with me to see. Thinking of the reason for the mysterious maiden cave heaven's return to the void, a deep hint of dread flashed in Ruan Yun's eyes. As if it were a taboo that could not be mentioned. Ruan Yun's demeanor made Lu Changsheng even more curious. However, he did not immediately agree. Curiosity killed the cat. If it was related to the divine court again, he, an anomaly, might be walking into a trap. The most urgent task was to undergo tribulation quickly. The stronger he was, the safer he would be. Next time for sure, I have something else to attend to, farewell. After speaking, Lu Changsheng retrieved the space ring, nodded slightly to Ruan Yun, and then transformed into a rainbow light, disappearing into the sky. Did Senior Lu discover something? Ruan Yun watched Lu Changsheng's departing back, a hint of surprise in her eyes. The situation with the mysterious maiden cave heaven was indeed very tricky. She had thought Lu Changsheng would be curious enough to go, but he unexpectedly refused outright. And this direction, it seems to be Qingqiu Mountain. The direction Lu Changsheng left in was not towards human race territory, but deeper into the Yao race, specifically towards Qingqiu Mountain, the Fox clan's territory. What is Senior Lu doing? He isn't addicted to killing, is he? Ruan Yun stood still for a while, then quietly followed. Battles between martial gods were still very rare. It was worth watching the commotion. But if Lu Changsheng truly caused such upheaval in the Western Barrens, wouldn't he fear being targeted by the combined forces of the demon and barbarian clans? It should be known that these two clans were allies, and they always acted in concert when dealing with the human race. Qingqiu Mountain, Yao God Hall. Yuanzi, the Yao God, sat beneath a huge statue of a Fox clan ancestor in the inner hall, looking at the intelligence in his hand, silent for a long time. Originally, he had planned to go to the Great Qin dynasty to kill the human race culprit who had killed Yi Han after his injuries healed. Unexpectedly, the latest intelligence poured cold water on him. That person had recently broken through to martial god and had even consecutively slain Li Zizai and Luo Song, leaving Xu Zongwu, a 5 tribulations martial god, helpless. It seems revenge is out of the question for a short while. Yuanzi sighed slightly, placing the letter on the stone table. He had not expected that the one who killed Yi Han would be such a prodigy. Soon after, a black-clad woman with 8 spider legs and the upper body of a human race noblewoman walked in. The Fox clan guards in the inner hall bowed respectfully upon seeing her, saying, "Greetings, poisonous Spider King." "Little Yuan, how are your injuries?" The poisonous Spider King strode with her 8 long legs to Yuanzi's side, asking in a teasing tone. "It's nothing serious now, 2 more months of recovery will do." Yuanzi replied with a normal expression. He and the poisonous Spider King had hundreds of years of friendship, so he naturally understood her personality. She came this time not to care for him, but to check his injuries. If his injuries were too severe, she wouldn't mind eating a portion of his physical body. The flesh and blood of a Yao god were a rare delicacy. As long as she didn't kill him, other Yao gods wouldn't interfere. By the way, I heard your fate-seizing plan was ruined by a human race individual, and that human race person even broke through to martial god, gaining considerable prestige in Great Qin. Do you want your elder sister to help you deal with him? As for the price, just 1 soul crystal will do. The poisonous Spider King's tone was filled with strong temptation. Yuanzi shook his head, saying, "Leaving aside whether you can defeat him, even if you could, that person is always elusive, with no fixed residence, it would be hard for you to find him." "No need to search, I'm already here." Before the poisonous Spider King could even move, a grand voice came from the sky, clearly audible throughout Qingqiu Mountain. Then, a spine-chilling aura followed. 144. Destroy 2 gods with 1 hand. The origin of Yi Han. Yuanzi and the poisonous Spider King's expressions drastically changed, and they quickly unleashed their Dao weapons. A crying face bronze mask and a white spider web. The white spider web expanded against the wind, soaring upwards to cover the sky. Meanwhile, Yuanzi donned the bronze mask and grabbed the poisonous Spider King's shoulder, instantly teleporting both demons above Qingqiu Mountain. Upon reaching the exterior of the Demon God Palace, the two great demon gods finally saw clearly that the terrifying object was precisely a large black millstone. Boom! The black millstone directly smashed the medium-grade Dao weapon, Sky Spider Web, and obliterated the Demon God Palace along with all nearby structures, leveling them entirely. Yuanzi looked at the countless dead and injured fox demons below, his heart bleeding. The areas around the Demon God Palace were inhabited by his descendants. Among them, there were even several demon god seeds he had painstakingly nurtured. But now, they were all gone. Lu Changsheng, if I, Yuanzi, do not kill you today, I swear I am not a demon. Yuanzi, with bloodshot eyes, glared at the white-clothed youth opposite him and roared through gritted teeth, "Poisonous Spider King, attack with me. If we can kill him, I will grant you 2 soul crystals." As he spoke, he pulled out a long, crimson spear radiating demonic chi and was the first to charge towards Lu Changsheng. "It's a deal." The poisonous Spider King gave a charming smile and followed closely, attacking Lu Changsheng. "Since you're actively seeking death, it saves me some effort." Lu Changsheng smiled slightly, still controlling the world-destroying millstone. However, this time he was fully activating its power. In the Void Realm, the world-destroying millstone slowly rotated, emanating an ancient and eternal aura. Black divine light obscured half the sky, and the world-destroying millstone flew out at extreme speed. Boom! Heaven and earth trembled. The medium-grade Dao weapon, Fire Dragon Spear, in Yuanzi's hand directly snapped into 2 pieces. The poisonous Spider King's medium-grade Dao weapon, Sky Spider Web, suffered an even worse fate, shattering into countless fragments, becoming more than a dozen tattered webs. Impossible! Yuanzi stared blankly at the Fire Dragon Spear broken in 2 in his hand. Both were medium-grade Dao weapons, so why was the power of this world-destroying millstone so outrageous? Nothing is impossible. Lu Changsheng raised his hand and pressed down, causing the world-destroying millstone to erupt with vast divine might. Even space itself began to shatter inch by inch beneath the world-destroying millstone. Yuanzi's physical body, naturally, exploded into a mist of blood without exception. As for the poisonous Spider King, the moment the Sky Spider Web shattered, she immediately began to flee frantically. Only martial gods above the 7th tribulation possessed the strength to destroy medium-grade Dao weapons. Though she didn't know why this human race individual possessed such heaven-defying strength, the poisonous Spider King was very clear that this was beyond her ability to contend with. Unfortunately, she had only fled a few dozen miles when the world-destroying millstone unleashed a beam of divine light, pulverizing her physical body. Subsequently, an indescribable immense power seized her divine soul. After a dizzying sensation, she only saw a colossal youthful face appear above her. Her divine soul was caught in Lu Changsheng's hand. Of course, along with her, Yuanzi's divine soul was also captured. "Human race, you dared to run to the Yao race territory and kill our demon gods. This has gravely violated the true martial covenant, and the demon and barbarian clans will not let you off." Yuanzi's divine soul continued to bluster loudly. In fact, besides being stubborn, he couldn't do anything else now. "Your threats are truly weak and powerless." Lu Changsheng smiled slightly, also feeling a bit disappointed. He had thought Yuanzi was much more formidable, but it turned out he was merely a 2-tribulation demon god. No wonder he could be injured by him as a martial saint in the simulator. So he was just a small-time nobody. Fortunately, there was the poisonous Spider King, a 4-tribulation demon god, as a bonus, so his gains wouldn't be too small. Demon god adult was killed by that human race individual. No, demon god adult isn't dead yet. His divine soul is still in that human race individual's hand. Warriors of the Fox clan, use our blood and flesh to rescue demon god adult. Upon witnessing Yuanzi's physical body collapse, the Fox clan of Qingqiu Mountain fell into chaos, with various, squeaking, noises continuously erupting. There were even loyalists organizing great demons, preparing to rescue Yuanzi. Noisy. Lu Changsheng raised an eyebrow. The world-destroying millstone immediately erupted with even more ferocious divine might, and a black beam of divine light directly enveloped the entire Qingqiu Mountain. The black divine light trembled slightly, and Qingqiu Mountain began to collapse and shatter frantically. No! Yuanzi's divine soul let out a heart-wrenching scream. Under this sound, tens of thousands of fox demons died every second. In just a short dozen seconds, Qingqiu Mountain was reduced to mud. There was no longer Qingqiu Mountain in its original place, there was only a pile of dark red stone powder. Not even a trace of living beings could be found. Lu Changsheng, IU0026 %, Fox Clan's affectionate greeting. Yuanzi's divine soul, upon seeing Qingqiu Mountain annihilated, flew into a rage. Unfortunately, in Lu Changsheng's hand, he didn't even have the qualification to burn his soul power to fight to the death, he was left with only impotent rage. In contrast, the poisonous Spider King was much calmer. After all, it wasn't her clansmen who died. The poisonous Spider King said coldly, "I've already sent a message to the Divine Tiger King, telling him to quickly notify the martial gods of the demon and barbarian clans to come and deal with you. If you know what's good for you, release us quickly, otherwise, there's only a dead end." Divine Tiger King. A strange expression appeared on Lu Changsheng's face. He directly put the divine souls of the two great demon gods into the spirit transformation bottle. Inside the spirit transformation bottle, the Divine Tiger King's thought was slightly startled. How did two more come in? Does that person intend to kill all the demon gods? Divine Tiger King, how did you also get your soul captured? Yuanzi and the poisonous Spider King were greatly alarmed. The Divine Tiger King was a formidable sixth tribulation demon god, yet he had surprisingly fallen victim even before the two of them. Thus, the three great demon gods inside the spirit transformation bottle began to recount their causes of death. However, they had barely chatted for long when Lu Changsheng's devil-like voice came again. "You've had your reunion, now it's time for serious business." After he finished speaking, the light inside the spirit transformation bottle flared brightly. Various soul-refining formations were continuously activated. Yuanzi's divine soul rapidly melted, continuously emitting screams. The Divine Tiger King and the poisonous Spider King huddled in a corner, trembling, fearing that they would be next. In less than a quarter of an hour, Yuanzi's divine soul was completely annihilated, his soul power refined into 2 soul crystals, and all his memories extracted by Lu Changsheng. So the entrance to the Sky Demon Cave Heaven is at this location. Lu Changsheng stroked his chin, revealing a look of understanding. Lu Changsheng's purpose in coming here to slay Yuanzi, besides eliminating this potential threat, was primarily to obtain the location of the Sky Demon Cave Heaven from him, to find a place for himself to undergo tribulation. The entrance to the Sky Demon Cave Heaven was a top-tier secret among the Yao race, and not many human race martial gods knew of such a hidden secret. But as absolute high-ranking members of the Yao race, demon gods certainly knew. Among these 3 demon gods, Yuanzi had the weakest divine soul power, so Lu Changsheng decided to start with him. From his memories, Lu Changsheng not only discovered the entrance to the Yao race's cave heaven but also an interesting fact. That was, Yi Han was not a reincarnation of some Fox clan ancestor demon god at all, but rather a reincarnation of Yuanzi's split soul. 145. The Heavenly Demon Cave Heaven, destroy the formation. Yi Han's death also caused significant damage to his divine soul. Of course, only he knew the truth about his injuries, publicly claiming he had a cultivation deviation. He also had a luck duo coup plan, which was to use Yi Han's human race identity to seize the human race's luck. Once he succeeded, not only would his own strength greatly increase, but Yi Han could also quickly become a martial god, who could then escort his main soul's reincarnation. However, the separate soul technique he used had serious flaws. Once Yi Han became stronger, he could very likely become the main soul, with Yuanzi reduced to a separate soul. Yuanzi did not care about this point. After all, he wasn't even confident he could pass the 3rd lightning tribulation, so he didn't care who was primary or secondary, it was all him anyway. If not for Lu Changsheng, his luck duo coup plan might actually have succeeded. But there are no ifs in life. Since the entrance to the Sky Demon Cave Heaven had been found, he did not linger and immediately set off. Not long after Lu Changsheng left, a beautiful woman arrived above the ruins of Qingqiu Mountain. It was Ruan Yun, who had been secretly following him. She looked at the ruins of Qingqiu Mountain, her eyes filled with unceasing horror. The legacy of Qingqiu Mountain could be traced back to ancient times, with an endless stream of powerful individuals. It had only declined somewhat by Yuanzi's generation, but it was still one of the main branches of the Yao race. Now that it had been destroyed by Lu Changsheng, who knew what great waves it would cause if word got out. First, he destroyed the divine tiger lineage, then the Qingqiu mountain lineage. What exactly did Lu Changsheng intend to do? Could he be trying to destroy all the Yao gods of the Yao race by himself? Thinking of this, Ruan Yun dared not continue following. She had already realized that Lu Changsheng's way of doing things was to be uninhibited. If he kept killing, who knew what kind of trouble he would stir up? If she continued to follow, and was mistakenly taken for an accomplice or accessory, she would have nowhere to cry. Just as she was about to leave, a Buddhist chant suddenly came from afar, "Benefactor, please stay." Ruan Yun turned around and found that it was Reverend Nianshuan of Great Luminous Temple. What was this old monk doing in the western wasteland instead of staying at Great Luminous Temple? An hour later, Lu Changsheng arrived above a stone mountain range in the extreme west of the western wasteland. There was no vegetation here, only large and small, various, strange and bizarre rocks. Large stone peaks pierced into the sky, while even the small ones were 100 jong tall, like strange beasts from primeval times, squatting there, waiting for intruders to fall into their trap. Lu Changsheng's first feeling upon arriving here was that it wasn't like reaching the end of the western wasteland, but rather the end of heaven and earth, where going any further would mean falling into an abyss of eternal damnation. In fact, his feeling was not wrong. Among the stone peaks, there were 9 layers of killing formations, 9 layers of illusion formations, and 9 layers of defensive formations laid down by successive Yao race powerhouses. A total of 27 formations would give even a 9 tribulation martial god a headache. Below the 9 tribulation, those who rashly intruded would not know the meaning of death. But this did not stump Lu Changsheng. According to Yuan Zi's memory, the Divine Tiger King, as one of the strongest Yao gods of the Yao race, had authority in the Sky Demon Cave heaven second only to another 6th tribulation Yao god, the Demon Flood Dragon King. With him as an inside man, passing through the formations would naturally be no problem. Then, he took out a divine soul thought of the Divine Tiger King from the spirit transformation bottle. "You want me to be an inside man? Impossible." As soon as this divine thought of the Divine Tiger King appeared, he knew where he was and immediately struggled desperately. But a mantis cannot stop a chariot. What's more, this was only one of the dozens of divine soul thoughts of the Divine Tiger King. No matter how much he struggled, he eventually became muddled under Lu Changsheng's divine thought and floated into the formation. The formation sensed the familiar aura and did not attack. This divine soul thought of the Divine Tiger King went all the way to the formation control center, a large stone chamber near the cave heaven's teleportation gate. More than a dozen Yao race formation great masters were here, controlling the normal operation of the formation. When that divine soul thought arrived, it transformed into the appearance of the Divine Tiger King, and the formation great masters on the scene quickly bowed and greeted him. "You all rest for a bit, I'll check if there have been any flaws in the formation during this time." The Divine Tiger King said. "Yes." The other formation great masters respectfully obeyed, but only a small old man muttered, "With this old man here, what flaws could there be?" This small old man was not of the Yao race, but a human race, named Deng Ai, an array grand master whom the Yao race had secretly abducted from the human race over 100 years ago. Due to his extremely high attainment in formations, even Yao gods had to show him 3 parts respect on normal days. Deng Ai grumbled discontentedly for a bit, but after all, it was their territory and he couldn't stop anything. Then, the Divine Tiger King took all the formation plates and formation flags into his hands, and came to the formation control area in the stone chamber, where his divine soul thought suddenly exploded. Boom! How terrifying was the divine soul thought of a 6th tribulation martial god. Under the self-detonation, all the formation plates and formation flags, along with the stone chamber, turned into ashes amidst the roaring sound. With the formation center destroyed, the 27 great formations immediately became chaotic. It was like a strong man holding an axe suddenly having an epileptic seizure, starting to flail his limbs in place, posing little threat to Lu Changsheng. What's going on? What happened in the formation chamber? The Yao race responsible for guarding this place immediately panicked. Their greatest reliance for protecting the cave heaven's gate was still the 27 formations. These guards were just icing on the cake. And in these short few breaths, Lu Changsheng had already penetrated through layers of formations and arrived inside. Here, the stone peaks had long been converted by the Yao race into buildings with a rough style. And in the very center of the square, a 10 jong high stone gate stood tall. Inside the stone gate, it was a vast expanse of white. Many Yao race members, due to the sudden changes, kept running towards the stone gate. This is the Sky Demon Cave Heaven teleportation gate from Yuanzi's memory, but before entering, I must first deal with the trouble outside. The trouble outside was naturally these 27 formations that could threaten a 9 tribulation martial god. Although Lu Changsheng had used the divine soul thought of the divine Tiger King to destroy the formation center, it would still be possible to rebuild them with some time. And the greatest threat to him in the Sky Demon Cave Heaven was only these 27 formations. As for the inside of the Cave Heaven, there wasn't too much danger, only the Demon Flood Dragon King, who had long been stationed in the Cave Heaven, barely caught his eye. Lu Changsheng directly took out the high-grade Dao weapon, the Thunderfire Sky-Shaking Halberd. Under the terrified gaze of thousands of Yao race members, the halberd light, like the 9 heavens silver river, continuously fell, forming a continuous stream, sweeping in all directions. Boom, boom, boom. One after another, stone peaks inscribed with formation patterns exploded, sending stone fragments flying and filling the air. One stone house after another instantly shattered, raising dust everywhere. Run, quickly go to the Sky Demon Cave Heaven and find Lord Demon Flood Dragon King. Thousands of Yao race members scattered and fled, occasionally being swept by the aftermath, bleeding profusely and suffering immensely. After an unknown period, the world finally quieted down, the halberd light dissipated, all formations were completely destroyed, and beneath the ruins of the stone peaks, one Yao race corpse after another was buried. Lu Changsheng put away the Thunderfire Sky-Shaking Halberd and transformed into a streak of light, flying into the Cave Heaven's teleportation gate. 146. The Death of the Demon Dragon King. The soul technique does not destroy the dragon body. The other end of the portal led to an open valley, beyond which stood a massive stone city. At this moment, a colossal flood dragon covered in black scales, leading a large group of Yao race elites, soared from the stone city directly towards the portal in the valley. As soon as they reached the sky above the valley, the group of Yao saw a figure emerge from the valley. Human race, how dare you intrude upon Sky Demon Cave Heaven? You are seeking death. The black-scaled flood dragon's eyes, glowing green like copper bells, flickered with violent killing intent. Demon Flood Dragon King. Lu Changsheng scrutinized him, finding that he looked almost identical to a true dragon, save for his somewhat inconspicuous dragon horns. It seems the widespread rumor that the Demon Flood Dragon King possesses a trace of true dragon bloodline is true. Perhaps this time I can acquire another demonic core with an innate soul skill. Roar. Before Lu Changsheng could act, the Demon Flood Dragon King let out a sky-shattering roar and swooped down. With eyes full of madness and ferocity, the Demon Flood Dragon King raised his dragon claw, tearing through the air, and struck down at Lu Changsheng. This single claw strike caused the air to shriek violently, emitting a mournful wail like ghosts and wolves. The true dragon race is particularly skilled in body refining. Although the Demon Flood Dragon King is not a true dragon, the strength of his physical body is in no way inferior to a medium-grade Dao weapon. Lu Changsheng naturally wouldn't confront him head-on with his physical body. Whoosh! To the Demon Flood Dragon King's shock, a 9-inch divine infant leapt out from Lu Changsheng's sea of consciousness. The divine infant grew to 3 zhong in size against the wind, and with a single punch, it collided with the dragon claw, which was over a meter tall. Boom! Violent power exploded through the air, and the rolling chi waves sent the Yao race elites who had followed the Demon Flood Dragon King flying in all directions. Roar! After the Demon Flood Dragon King and the divine infant exchanged a blow, his massive dragon body tumbled violently in the air, and his dragon scales, as hard as a medium-grade Dao weapon, fell like rain. Bang! 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 Countless explosive sounds erupted within the Demon Flood Dragon King's body, and foul-smelling dragon blood sprayed into the sky like a fountain. The Demon Flood Dragon King's dragon body was violently sent flying several hundred zhong, then crashed heavily to the ground, his roars gradually becoming inaudible. He was actually half killed by a single punch from Lu Changsheng's divine infant. All of the Demon Flood Dragon King's subordinates were stunned. How powerful was their king's body? It could even contend with a medium-grade Dao weapon in close combat. Yet, Lu Changsheng's divine soul was able to heavily injure him to the point of near death with one punch. Isn't divine soul supposed to be for mental attacks? How could it possess such absurd physical damage? It was no wonder they were shocked. The secrets beyond the martial god realm were rarely known, especially high-level martial gods above the 7th tribulation, who were blind spots even for some low-level martial gods, let alone this group of great Yao. Before the divine infant took shape, the divine soul indeed focused primarily on mental attacks. However, after the divine infant condensed, it gradually materialized from the ethereal, no longer limited to mental damage. If one passes through 9 lightning tribulations and opens the divine aperture, even if their physical body is destroyed or they die of old age, the divine infant can live for a long time like a normal person, and can even conceive offspring with others. Lu Chengsheng's 9-inch nascent divine infant was not much weaker than the divine infant of a martial god who had just passed the 8th lightning tribulation. Medium-grade Dao weapons no longer posed any threat to him. Only high-grade Dao weapons or peerless-grade Dao weapons could harm him. The demon Flood Dragon King challenging him with his physical body, which he was most proud of, was undoubtedly seeking death. This person is invincible, quickly take the king away from here. A flood dragon at the peak of the core formation realm roared, but he himself kept retreating. However, his words did incite many loyal Yao to try and carry away the heavily injured demon Flood Dragon King. Seeing this, the divine infant opened its mouth and spat out a black stone mill. The black stone mill vibrated the void realm, and the elites brought by the demon Flood Dragon King died in droves, quickly perishing completely. This scared the great Yao who were rushing to support from afar, making them halt their advance. Afterward, the divine infant entered the demon Flood Dragon King's body and pulled out a miniature little flood dragon. It was precisely the demon Flood Dragon King's divine soul. In the divine infant's other hand, it was holding a demonic core. Lu Chengsheng was somewhat surprised by the demon Flood Dragon King's weak divine soul. Its divine soul power was even inferior to that of a 5th tribulation martial god. This was not caused by Lu Chengsheng just now. After all, what he wanted most was a complete divine soul. After placing the demon Flood Dragon King's divine soul into the spirit transformation bottle, Lu Chengsheng began to study the demonic core, and only then did a look of sudden realization appear on his face. As expected, this demonic core also contained an innate soul skill. Its name was very domineering, Undying Dragon Body. It was a soul skill specifically for enhancing the power of the physical body. Each time it was used, the power of the inner body would greatly increase, but the divine soul would fall into an extremely weak state. It would take more than 10 years to recover by self-recuperation alone. The demon Flood Dragon King's divine soul was so weak precisely because he had just used this soul skill 8 months ago. If this were in the outside world, it would undoubtedly be a very dangerous act, giving enemies an opportunity. However, the demon Flood Dragon King usually resided in Sky Demon Cave Heaven and rarely encountered any danger, which is why he dared to use the Undying Dragon Body without restraint. However, this time, he met Lu Chengsheng. Of course, with his strength, even if he were at his peak, he would not be Lu Chengsheng's opponent. His divine soul being in a weakened state only made it easier for Lu Chengsheng to subdue him. This Undying Dragon Body is very suitable for me. Lu Chengsheng's eyes lit up. Although the side effects are significant, its effects are excellent. Theoretically, it can even increase the physical body to a level comparable to a peerless grade Dao weapon. For martial gods, especially high-level martial gods, the physical body is simply too fragile, like a bubble. Even with careful protection, it is extremely easy to damage during combat with enemies. In fact, for martial gods, the greatest function of the physical body is to prevent the divine soul from becoming a ghost god, because in that case, the power of the lightning tribulation would be much greater. According to records, many 9 tribulation martial gods who have passed 9 lightning tribulations and no longer need to worry about lightning tribulations descending, choose to abandon their physical body in pursuit of great freedom and liberation. Lu Chengsheng speculated that the divine lords in the divine court were also like this. After all, the lifespan of the physical body is too short, only 1,000 years. And the establishment of the divine court was tens of thousands of years ago. However, Lu Chengsheng learned from Yuanzi's memory that Yuanzi once saw a sentence in an ancient book left by the fox race progenitor. That is, the physical body is crucial for breakthrough to realms beyond the soul calamity realm. Regardless of whether it was true or false, Lu Chengsheng had no intention of abandoning his physical body. This Undying Dragon Body can greatly enhance the physical body's ability to preserve life, which for him, is undoubtedly one of the soul skills he most desires. Lu Chengsheng put away the demon Flood Dragon King's demonic core and also collected his dragon corpse and the fallen scales. The dragon corpse could be refined to extract true dragon bloodline, used to enhance the azure dragon Dharma idol, and the dragon scales could be given to an artifact refining great master to create a defensive medium-grade Dao weapon. It could be said that the demon flood dragon king was a treasure from head to toe. Now that he had arrived in Sky Demon Cave Heaven and dealt with the biggest problem, the demon flood dragon king, Lu Changsheng was ready to absorb the cultivation and officially undergo the 5th lightning tribulation. 147. Survive 5 thunder tribulations. Teach the consciousness of the cave heaven a lesson. System, choose one. As Lu Changsheng made his choice, his sea of consciousness immediately surged. A massive amount of soul power, condensed like liquid, emerged from the void realm and poured into Lu Changsheng's divine infant. Lu Changsheng's nascent divine infant began to rapidly grow and mature. 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet. When the divine infant grew to 3 feet tall, the soul power surging in the void realm finally calmed down. The 3-foot-tall divine infant was already like a half-grown child, and the facial features on its face gradually became clear, looking exactly like his 8 or 9-year-old self from his previous life. Lu Changsheng's divine soul manifested the appearance of his previous life. In fact, it wasn't just his divine soul, even Lu Changsheng's physical body in this life, after multiple transformations, began to resemble his previous life, currently bearing a 70 to 80% similarity. After the reception of the simulated realm cultivation ended, thunder immediately rumbled in the sky, like a heavenly drum, startling and breathtaking. Whoosh, whoosh, a strong wind rose, and the world darkened. Crackling, this lightning tribulation was even more ferocious than usual. Before Lu Changsheng could react, it struck down in a continuous barrage, giving him no chance to respond. There's something to this. It seems to be mixed with the Sky Demon Cave Heaven's worldwool, and it holds hostility towards me. The lightning tribulation is formed by the operation of the Great World's rules and cannot be interfered with by a Cave Heaven World's worldwill. However, a Cave Heaven World's worldwill can act as a catalyst. For example, the Sky Demon Cave Heaven seemed to dislike Lu Changsheng's human race identity, giving the lightning tribulation a green light, directly and quickly delivering it above him, as if wishing for the lightning tribulation to strike him dead sooner. Come on, lightning tribulation, let me see your limit. Lu Changsheng remained composed, sitting on the ground, his divine infant rising into the air, stable as Mount Tai and solid as a great Buddha under the might of the violent lightning. The divine infant leapt into the thunderclouds, opened its mouth, and inhaled, and the rolling thunder, like a torrent, was sucked into its mouth. This time, unlike the previous 4 times, the lightning actually developed a rebellious consciousness. Seemingly unwilling to be devoured by Lu Changsheng like this, balls of lightning transformed into tiny lightning figures and charged towards him. Seeing this, the divine infant instantly transformed into a 100-jong giant. With a powerful grab, it immediately brought a large number of tiny lightning figures into its palm. The divine infant discovered that these tiny figures not only contained a large amount of lightning essence chi but also harbored the will of heaven and earth within them. The will of heaven and earth was more difficult to refine but more nourishing for the divine soul than lightning essence chi, so the divine infant directly stuffed them into its mouth in handfuls. With a forceful bite, the tiny lightning figures exploded with a bang, letting out screams before perishing. After about a quarter of an hour of devouring, no new tiny lightning figures were born. And the lightning tribulation, which should have lasted for several hours, gradually dissipated. The divine infant patted its round belly, still with a hint of regret on its face, then returned to its original size. After the 5th lightning tribulation, the divine infant's height also increased from 3 feet to 4 feet 5 inches. The divine infant's maximum size is 9 feet 9 inches. It can only be said that the journey is long and arduous. Lu Changsheng withdrew his divine infant into his sea of consciousness, sighing inwardly, as the Star Luo sect's secret realm spirit said, as long as I undergo tribulation in a cave heaven world, I can avoid the divine court's monitoring. I don't need to worry too much about undergoing tribulation next, I just need to collect more soul crystals. With enough soul crystals, he would have sufficient confidence to deal with the divine court's threat. However, soul crystals are extremely rare in existence. To obtain them in large quantities, there is only one way: slaughter. Currently, among the Yao race's 8 great Yao gods, White Fox King, Poisonous Spider King, Divine Tiger King, and Demon Flood Dragon King have already died by his hand. He might as well go all the way and kill the remaining 4 as well. Lest the Sky Demon Cave Heaven fall and the news of Demon Flood Dragon King and other Yao gods' deaths spread, scaring the remaining Yao gods into hiding. The Yao race currently has Silver Wolf King, Dragon Lion King, Snow Feather King, and Ancestor Tortoise as the 4 remaining great Yao gods. Except for Ancestor Tortoise, whose whereabouts are unpredictable, the other 3 Yao gods all have their own clans and territories, making them easy to find. Don't you favor the Yao race? Before I leave, I'll give you a little gift. Lu Changsheng glanced at the sky and grinned. The Sky Demon Cave Heaven's World Will's catalysis just now increased the power of the lightning tribulation by at least 20%. If it were an ordinary martial god undergoing tribulation, it would truly be a certain death. Lu Changsheng took out his Thunderfire sky-shaking halberd and swung it towards the distant stone city. The halberd intent, reaching through heaven and earth, vibrated between the heavens and earth. A halberd light, tens of thousands of meters wide, was swung out by Lu Changsheng and slashed towards the stone city. Amidst the shock and terror of the Yao race in the stone city, the heavens and earth seemed to explode. Everything in the path of the halberd light turned to dust, and even the void realm constantly shattered and healed. Boom! Soon, the stone city disappeared from its original location. Only a bare patch of earth remained, with all buildings and living beings on it having turned into dust and scattered in all directions. This stone city was the Yao race's base camp in the Sky Demon Cave Heaven, inhabited entirely by the prodigies of various Yao race branches. They had entered the Sky Demon Cave Heaven to undergo brutal tempering here, hoping to gain further opportunities, but they never expected to be buried today in this place, hailed as the safest in the Western Desolate. Boom! The moment the stone city was annihilated, a thunderous roar suddenly came from the boundless void realm, as if the heavenly lord was enraged. But in the end, the thunderous roar subsided. Clearly, the Sky Demon Cave Heaven's world will was also helpless against Lu Changsheng. As a small world, a Cave Heaven's world will has extremely limited power and can hardly do anything to a martial god expert. Not to mention a freak like Lu Changsheng, who possesses high-level martial god combat power. After teaching the Sky Demon Cave Heaven's world will a lesson, Lu Changsheng put away his Thunderfire sky-shaking halberd and left the place. Outside the Sky Demon Cave Heaven, it was already a ruin, with only the teleportation gate intact. And at this moment, from a pile of mud and rubble, a head emerged from underground. Who else could it be but the Array Grand Master, Deng Ai? Deng Ai shook off the mud from his head, then extended his 2 withered arms, and finally, with great effort, pulled his heavily injured body out of the mud and stones. Tui, today is truly unlucky. Who knew that guy, Divine Tiger King, who looked so honest, would actually betray the Yao race? Deng Ai spat out the mud mixed with blood from his mouth. If he hadn't been cautious and always carried several sets of defensive formation plates that would automatically activate when attacked, he would have perished here today. However, even so, he was severely injured. As a martial saint, he couldn't even fly now. Not to mention traveling over mountains and waters to return to the human race territory, hundreds of thousands of miles away. What do I do now? Stay here and wait for death? If other Yao race members come over and see only me, an old man, alive, will they think I'm responsible for everything and devour me alive? Deng Ai was troubled. As an Array Grand Master, he could control those 27 top-tier formations, and naturally, he could also destroy them. But if he did that, he would surely die. And it would implicate the Deng family, far away in the human race territory. Deng Ai feared nothing except his hundreds of descendants dying prematurely, otherwise, he wouldn't have worked here for so many years. Just as he was troubled, ripples appeared in the teleportation gate. A white-clothed youth walked out. 148. Aren't you a formation master? The shock of the monk Nianshuan. It's that malevolent star who just slaughtered this place and destroyed the formation. Deng Ai's first reaction was to retreat a few steps in fright. But then he thought that staying here was just waiting for death, so he gritted his teeth and went up to him with a face full of smiles. Your divine might earlier, sir, I saw it with my own eyes and felt it in my heart. These Yao race should have been killed long ago. Thank you, sir, for saving me from this misery today. Before he even reached him, a flattery was already delivered. You're actually not dead. Lu Changsheng was a little surprised. It could only be said that the Array Grand Master truly had some tricks up his sleeve. Having extracted all of Yuanzi's memories, he naturally recognized Deng Ai and knew that he was an extremely rare Array Grand Master. However, at that moment, his entire focus was on destroying the formation, and he held nothing back. He didn't expect the old man to still be alive. Isn't this thanks to you, sir? And I must also thank you for showing mercy. Deng Ai continued to flatter him without batting an eye, then his eyes darted around and he asked, "Where are you going, sir? Could you take this old man with you? I am an array Grand Master, and I will absolutely not hold you back, sir. You stay here for now. I still have some things to attend to. Once I'm done, I'll pick you up and take you back to the human race territory." Lu Chengsheng didn't refuse. He still had a copy of the Earth Extremity Kun Array scripture, and if he learned it completely, his formation attainments would not be weaker than an array Grand Master. It was just that he had no formation foundation at all. If he could have an array Grand Master to guide him, it would undoubtedly greatly accelerate the process. He had truly experienced the power of formations today. An array Grand Master, with sufficient materials, posed a threat no less than a high-level martial god. And the most frequent use of formations was naturally among the human race, who were known for their wisdom. The 3 teachings and 6 sects and the 7 great clans all possessed top-tier grand formations. Not knowing a bit of formation made it too easy to suffer losses. Deng Ai was delighted to hear this and quickly rubbed his hands, asking, "Then, sir, can you first give me something to protect myself?" "What protection? Aren't you an array Grand Master? Can't you just set up 2 concealment formations for yourself?" With that, Lu Chengsheng directly transformed into a rainbow and departed. Anyone who wanted to fleece him hadn't been born yet. Deng Ai was dumbfounded. His storage belt had long since disappeared, and without materials, how could he set up a formation? But Lu Chengsheng had already left, and it was useless no matter how much he fumed. Just as Deng Ai was troubled about how to find a hidden place for himself, he saw golden light shining brightly in the eastern sky, and within the golden light, the sound of chanting scriptures echoed loudly. An old monk, clad in a red kasaya and with a compassionate expression, emerged from the golden light. Where the old monk passed, golden lotuses bloomed. In just 3 to 5 steps, he covered a distance of dozens of miles and arrived above the ruins. Seeing the stone peak, which was originally the entrance to the Sky Demon Cave Heaven, completely ruined, the old monk's face inevitably showed a look of shock. The entrance to the Sky Demon Cave Heaven was guarded by 27 grand formations. Even if a 9 tribulation martial god personally arrived, they might not be able to break through. But now it was destroyed in an instant. This was absolutely the most earth-shattering event of its kind in the Tianyuan continent in hundreds of years. "You are Reverend Nianshuan of the Great Luminous Temple." Deng Ai's tone was a mix of surprise and joy. As an array Grand Master, before he was abducted by the Yao race, he had always been a distinguished guest of the 3 teachings and 6 sects and the 7 great clans. Sometimes, to invite him to act, martial gods would even have to visit him personally. So he was not unfamiliar with the martial gods of the major powers. Lu Chengsheng had just left, and another human race martial god had arrived, so his life should be safe. "So it's Lu." Reverend Nianshuan took a step forward, arriving in front of Deng Ai, put his palms together, and said with surprise. Deng Ai had been captured by the Yao race for over 100 years, and Reverend Nianshuan had only met him once before. When he first arrived, he almost mistook him for an ordinary human race martial saint. Now, hearing his voice, his sealed memories reopened. "May I ask, Lu, are these ruins the work of a human race martial god named Lu Chengsheng?" Reverend Nianshuan inquired. Lu Chengsheng. Deng Ai was stunned. The martial god just now didn't state his name, so Deng Ai could only describe his appearance. "It is indeed Lu." After listening to Deng Ai's description, Reverend Niankong nodded, then said, "Where is Lu now? Has he entered the Sky Demon Cave Heaven?" "He has already come out of the cave heaven and said he was going to do something, telling me to wait for him here. If you are here for him, Reverend, you might as well wait here for a moment." Deng Ai quickly said. If Reverend Nianshuan could stay, his safety would naturally be greatly guaranteed. Directly asking him to take him away would instead offend that malevolent star. Having Reverend Nianshuan wait here with him for the malevolent star to return was the best option. Very well. Reverend Nianshuan nodded slightly. Lu Chengsheng's speed was simply too fast, he couldn't catch up at all. If he continued to pursue him, he might lose him again. Then he turned his gaze to the Sky Demon Cave Heaven teleportation gate. Lu Chengsheng had been gone for quite some time, yet no Yao race powerful figures had emerged from the cave heaven to investigate the situation, which was clearly abnormal. Subsequently, he took Deng Ai through the teleportation gate. As soon as they stepped in, a strong smell of blood assailed them. Outside the secluded valley where the teleportation gate was located, there was a lot of dark red blood scattered, emitting strong evil chi in a heart-palpitating aura. It's the Demon Flood Dragon King's blood. Having dealt with the Demon Flood Dragon King for over 100 years, Deng Ai was naturally extremely familiar with his aura. Not far away, there was also a depression several hundred zhang long, whose shape perfectly matched the Demon Flood Dragon King's physique. It seems the Demon Flood Dragon King must have died at Lu's hands. Reverend Nianshuan shook his head slightly. The Demon Flood Dragon King had long been stationed in the Sky Demon Cave Heaven and rarely ventured out, but he still couldn't escape the fate of falling. It's not just the Demon Flood Dragon King. Look at that Lu, he even raised the Yao race's main base, Boulder City. Deng Ai pointed to a large exposed patch of ground in the distance, exclaiming. Boulder City was the largest Yao city in the Sky Demon Cave Heaven, and who knows how many Yao race prodigies resided there. Now that it was all gone, the Yao race would likely fall into a state of decline for the next few hundred years. Reverend Nianshuan was a little surprised. If Deng Ai hadn't told him there was a city there, he would have thought it was caused by the aftermath of a great battle. Because there was only a large area of exposed earth and rock, with no trace of a city at all. And the chi in the air. Reverend Nianshuan carefully sensed with his divine thought, and after a long while, he opened his eyes, a look of pleasant surprise flashing within them. It is indeed the chi of a divine infant. The great luminous temple was not far from Qingqiu Mountain. Earlier, he had been startled by the commotion generated by a fight between martial gods. By the time he arrived, Lu Changsheng had already left, and he only saw Ruan Yun, the sect master of the mysterious maiden sect. He was curious about Lu Changsheng's strength. Ruan Yun told him that Lu Changsheng had condensed a nascent divine infant. He had been a little disappointed at first. Because to accomplish that matter, only martial gods above 8 tribulations who had condensed a complete divine infant had any hope. But he still wanted to confirm. That's why he came to find Lu Changsheng. If he had truly only condensed a nascent divine infant, then that matter could only be left unresolved. Now, however, he had sensed the chi of a complete divine infant, which undoubtedly rekindled his thoughts. However, the specifics would only be known after meeting Lu Changsheng. 149. The Dragon Lion King and the Sky-Breaking Shuttle, the despair of the human race. Just as Reverend Nianshuan was anxiously waiting for Lu Changsheng, the man himself had already arrived at a vast, unusually hot grassland, 200,000 miles away. Upon the boundless grassland, a sprawling palace complex stood majestically. This was precisely the residence of the Dragon Lion King, one of the 8 great Yao gods. The Dragon Lion King was inherently extravagant, and this palace complex was naturally adorned with luxurious decorations and exquisite carvings, displaying a magnificent grandeur within its delicate architecture. It was said that to construct this palace complex, nearly 100,000 human race artisans died from exhaustion. Lu Changsheng swept his divine thought and discovered large areas of human bones buried beneath many of the buildings. Who is it? Lu Changsheng's divine thought startled the Dragon Lion King, who was enjoying himself in the hall. In terms of enjoyment, he ranked first among the 8 great Yao gods. No one dared to rank second. At this moment, he was enjoying the 100 lions contending for beauty dance presented by the lion race beauties when a colossal divine thought suddenly swept over. It made him, a Yao god who had undergone 5 lightning tribulations, feel his heart tremble. The one who will take your life. Lu Changsheng landed in the palace, his cold gaze sweeping towards the old Lion King, who sat on the throne with a mix of shock and fury. Immediately, he lifted his leg and stomped down forcefully. Rumble. An unimaginably terrifying force surged from Lu Changsheng's divine infant, finally converging at his foot. With one stomp, it was as if a myriad of thunderbolts exploded. A terrifying, thunder-like fluctuation, centered on his right leg, kicked up a large expanse of shattered stone slabs and earth, spreading out in all directions. Boom, boom, boom. In less than a few breaths, the entire architectural complex collapsed with deafening roars of air tremors. Ah ah ah, countless screams mingled with the sound of bones shattering. Who knows how many lion race experts died violently in the explosive chi force. Human race, are you going to break the true martial covenant and trigger a war between our 2 races? The Dragon Lion King roared, revealing his true body, hundreds of feet tall, with monstrous might. A war between 2 races? You're not worthy. Lu Changsheng sneered, clenching his 5 fingers into a terrifying fist print, and attacked the Dragon Lion King amidst the ghostly wails of tearing air. Anger flashed in the Dragon Lion King's eyes, and he swatted down with a claw, as if to crush an ant. However, as soon as the two made contact, bang, the Dragon Lion King's entire right foreleg shattered into a sky full of flesh and blood fragments. Subsequently, the surging strong winds struck his body, and he didn't even have time to let out a scream before he was torn into a sky full of flesh and blood by Lu Chengsheng's fierce fist wind, staining large areas of grass and palace ruins red. Human race, you wait, I will make you pay for this blood debt. A speck of silver light flew out from the sky full of flesh and blood, fleeing into the distance at a speed that even a 7 tribulation martial god would find hard to match. As expected of a high-grade Dao artifact, the sky-breaking shuttle. Such a divine item is wasted in your hands. Lu Chengsheng looked at the silver light rapidly disappearing from his sight, praising it from the bottom of his heart. This sky-breaking shuttle was a treasure obtained 3,000 years ago by a lion race old ancestor who, after experiencing countless dangers, acquired it while traveling in the Mist-Fiend Sea. It is rumored to be the life-bound weapon of a certain powerful individual from the heaven-escaping sect, one of the 10 great sects of ancient times. It was precisely because of this treasure that the lion race became one of the most unprovoked races. After all, their escapability is too strong. Once they are not killed, they will usher in crazy revenge. However, Lu Chengsheng was not in a hurry at all, pursuing him unhurriedly. After chasing for over 30,000 miles, he stopped. Because ahead, there was a child over 4 feet tall, whose appearance resembled his own. The child held a ball of divine soul in one hand and played with a silver-white shuttle in the other. This child was naturally Lu Chengsheng's divine infant. The moment the Dragon Lion King's physical body was destroyed, the divine infant had already firmly locked onto his divine soul. Although the sky-breaking shuttle was strong, the Dragon Lion King's realm was too low. He was only a 5 tribulation Yao god and could not unleash even 1/10 of the sky-breaking shuttle's power. How could he escape from his divine infant, which was comparable to an 8 tribulation martial god? Human race, are you going to be an enemy of my Yao race? The Dragon Lion King's divine soul constantly vibrated, letting out angry roars. It seems you still believe your race is your strong backing. Since that's the case, then I'll send you to meet your old friends. Lu Chengsheng directly stuffed the Dragon Lion King's divine soul into the spirit transformation bottle. The Dragon Lion King, who had been roaring furiously a moment ago, immediately froze upon entering the spirit transformation bottle. White Fox King, Poisonous Spider King, Divine Tiger King, and Demon Flood Dragon King, how are they all here? The White Fox King aside, he was the weakest of the 8 great Yao gods. But the Divine Tiger King and the Demon Flood Dragon King were both 6 tribulation Yao gods. Especially the Demon Flood Dragon King, who was stationed in the Sky Demon Cave Heaven, even a 9 tribulation martial god would find it difficult to break in for a while. How could he also suffer such a tragic fate? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. It must be an illusion set up by that damned human race to shatter my iron-like will in one fell swoop, and then take the opportunity to refine my divine soul. The Dragon Lion King muttered to himself, as if he had discovered some truth, leaving the other Yao gods speechless. Forget it, let him calm down. You guys, do you think that Lu Chengsheng really wants to kill all of us Yao gods? Hard to say. Could it be that our vast western desolate Yao race is to become a vassal of the human race? I'd say it's more likely we'll become food. Shut up, you traitorous demon. The Yao gods ignored the Dragon Lion King and instead started arguing among themselves. Snow Feather Mountain, over 9,000 meters high. Above the halfway point of the mountain, there was thick accumulated snow. Even so, along the mountain road, there was a long line of carriages heading towards the architectural complex at the summit. Nothing else, because today was the annual day for tribute of beauties to the Snow Feather King. That's right, it was literally human race beauties. Generally speaking, even when transformed into human form, Yao gods most favored females of their own race. However, the Snow Feather King was an exception. He most liked human race women, and after enjoying them each time, he also liked to eat their hearts and livers. At most, he could eat the hearts and livers of over 100 beauties in one night. As such, the number of human race women needed was enormous. His vassal tribes were required to continuously offer tributes to him. At the mountain slope, over 6,000 meters high, amidst a pile of rubble buried by heavy snow, no one knew that 15 human race experts were hidden there. They blended with the environment, and their aura was concealed by a special treasure, not revealing a single trace. Elder Wu, the prison cart has arrived. Should we make a move? Among the rubble, a human race expert, seeing a prison cart carrying a blue-dressed girl slowly passing below, gestured to the wide-faced man leading them. However, the wide-faced man, Wu Fang, did not reply. Instead, his eyes were wide with horror as he looked ahead. There, a captivating young man with silver hair draped over his shoulders and a white feather cloak had appeared at some unknown time. The captivating young man said playfully, "It's truly lively today, there are even more than a dozen little mice." Snow Feather King. Wu Fang's face was filled with bitterness. Although the special treasure concealing their aura could deceive Great Yao, it absolutely could not deceive a Yao god. And a Yao god's divine thought was enough to cover the entire Snow Feather Mountain. Of course, Yao gods would not release their divine thought constantly, as that would consume too much divine soul power. Generally, they would only release their divine thought under special circumstances. Wu Fang and his group were actually gambling that the Snow Feather King would not use his divine thought to check before they made their move to snatch the blue-dressed girl and left using the teleportation array they had already set up. Evidently, they had gambled wrong. Not only did they lose everything, but they also had to sacrifice their lives. 150. Evil beast, how dare you be so presumptuous? I have 3 things to do. Let me see what you human race rats are up to. The Silver Wolf King's divine thought moved, and the man who had gestured earlier immediately clutched his head, wailing in pain. Everyone knew this was a soul search, but they dared not make any other moves. Divine Moon Sect, 5th Elder, rescuing a disciple. You truly have deep master-disciple bonds. The Silver Wolf King seemed interested, and with a wave of his hand, the cage below immediately shattered into pieces. The blue-skirted girl inside the cage was caught by an invisible large hand and landed in the Silver Wolf King's grasp. Is this your disciple? The Silver Wolf King choked the girl's throat, looking at Wu Fang, the 5th Elder of the Divine Moon Sect, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Since you care so much about her, I'll be the first to defile her later, how about that? You beast, I'll kill you. Wu Fang could no longer control his rage, taking out the high-grade magical weapon, Absolute Wind Blade, from his storage ring, and charged towards the Silver Wolf King. However, with just a gentle palm strike from the Silver Wolf King, he was sent flying back. Even the high-grade magical weapon, Absolute Wind Blade, in his hand broke into several pieces. Below a martial god, all are ants. Everyone now deeply understood the despairing meaning of this sentence. Master, Elder Shu, Senior Brother, 4th Senior Sister. The blue-skirted girl, Zhao Susu, looked at the familiar faces of her companions who had fallen into despair, filled with deep regret. When she descended the mountain, she shouldn't have gone to the Yao race territory, thinking she could rescue some common people, but never expected it to be a trap. Not only did she trap herself, but she also dragged over a dozen of her close fellow disciples to their deaths with her. Cough, 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 our Divine Moon Sect's old ancestor is Lu Changsheng, you, cough, cough, you can't. Wu Fang coughed up blood while bringing up Lu Changsheng, the old ancestor who was distantly related, hoping to deter the Silver Wolf King, this Yao god. Lu Changsheng, this is the Western Wilderness, he wouldn't dare come here even with 10 times the courage. The Silver Wolf King's expression was disdainful as he took out the medium-grade Dao weapon, Ice Feather Fan. He had played enough. Now, with just a gentle wave, he could freeze everyone in front of him into ice sculptures. Then he would display them at the entrance of the Snow Feather Palace, which would also add to the festivities of this grand event. Just as the dozen or so people in front showed despair and were about to perish. Beast, how dare you be so presumptuous? A loud shout echoed from the sky, like an enraged deity, shaking the 9 heavens. Subsequently, an incomparably terrifying divine light descended, and the void realm trembled, rippling in waves. Boom! The divine light instantly struck the Silver Wolf King. Ah! A shrill scream resounded in the air, and then, under the rapidly shrinking pupils of Wu Fang and the others, the Silver Wolf King's body was torn apart, turning into a sky full of blood rain. This sight shocked them too greatly. They stared blankly. How could the previously arrogant Yao god die so easily? At this moment, their minds were somewhat in a daze. Too terrifying. Many great Yao on Snow Feather Mountain felt their scalps tingle and their bodies tremble. That was a Yao god. And a Yao god who had passed 4 lightning tribulations and condensed a young god. How could he be killed by 1 strike? If this were to spread, it would sound like a fantasy. Lu Chong Sheng, the Silver Wolf King's divine soul let out a mournful shriek, transforming into a white stream of light, frantically fleeing towards the nearest Silver Wolf King's territory. However, soon a large hand firmly grabbed it. Then, it entered a dark hole. Newcomers again. Welcome, welcome, scram. The Silver Wolf King was enraged and horrified. How could there be so many Yao God's divine souls here? What on earth had Lu Chengsheng done in the western wilderness? Outside, everything happened in a flash of lightning. When everyone recovered, a white-clothed youth, spotless and resembling a god or immortal, had already stepped through the air and quickly landed on Snowfeather Mountain. So it's martial god Lu from the human race. Could it be that you've come for these human race juniors? The clan chief of the Snowfeather clan immediately went to greet him, his expression surprisingly respectful. Although the Yao God old ancestor was dead, the clan still had to survive. He wouldn't be foolish enough to immediately start accusing and insulting. Yes and no, I have only come here today for 3 things, Lu Chengsheng said calmly. May I ask what they are? As long as our clan can do it, we will definitely assist with all our might. The clan chief of the Snowfeather clan rejoiced inwardly. As long as there was room for discussion, the losses could be minimized. The other Snowfeather clan members, however, had expressions of grief and indignation. They, the dignified, kings of the sky, among the Yao race, had never been forced to such a state by a human race member. After sending off this fierce person, they would definitely ask other Yao gods to come forward and uphold justice for their tragically deceased old ancestor of the Snowfeather clan. You can definitely do it. Lu Chengsheng's lips curved into a mysterious smile. I am here to kill Yao, and still kill Yao. When the first, kill Yao, was uttered, all Yao beasts below the Faxiong realm on Snowfeather Mountain instantly exploded and died. When the second, kill Yao, was uttered, all other great Yao, except for the clan chief of the Snowfeather clan, all exploded into a mist of blood. The clan chief of the Snowfeather King clan was both shocked and enraged. But it was too late for him to speak, because the third, kill Yao, from Lu Chengsheng's mouth had already been uttered. Bang! A bloody fireworks display exploded with a roar. It was also like the final dying sound. From then on, the 9,000-meter-high Snowfeather Mountain no longer had any Yao race existence. Too terrifying. Wu Fang and the others were filled with horror, too shocked to even speak. Killing a 4-tribulation Yao god with a casual strike, and being able to kill a Faxiong realm great Yao with a single thought. What kind of strength did old ancestor Lu possess? Not long ago, didn't he have to fight fiercely for a long time just to kill a 3-tribulation martial god, Li Zizai? Was this person really old ancestor Lu? Lu Chengsheng naturally didn't care what they were thinking. With a wave of his hand, a leaf flew down from a snowy branch and landed in his hand. This leaf contains a trace of my divine thought, enough to protect you all safely back to the human race. When you return, tell the Divine Moon Sect and the Sun Radiance Sect to have Luo Li and Gao Hongyang bring their elite disciples to the Great Qin Imperial City as quickly as possible. As Lu Chengsheng spoke, countless cultivation resources from Snowfeather Mountain soared into the sky, stacking together in midair. After Lu Chengsheng finished speaking, Lu Chengsheng's figure and this batch of resources simultaneously disappeared, leaving only a floating leaf where he had been. Old ancestor Lu is so aloof. Zhao Susu, rescued, took the leaf, which still carried the residual warmth of Lu Chengsheng's fingers, causing her cheeks to flush slightly. Cough, cough. Wu Fang, having survived the ordeal, took out a blood-solidifying pill for healing and swallowed it. Fortunately, old ancestor Lu intervened this time, otherwise, I fear we would all have perished here. Another middle-aged man sighed slightly. His name was Xu Mu, and he was an elder of the Divine Moon Sect, just like Wu Fang. The two were also close friends, which was why they participated in this rescue operation. He hadn't expected the process to be 10 times more dangerous than he had imagined. If Lu Chengsheng hadn't suddenly appeared, the consequences would have been unimaginable. This place is not suitable for long stays. After taking the blood-solidifying pill, Wu Fang's face looked much better, and he could stand up on his own. Then he took out a willow leaf-shaped flying boat. Since we need to complete the task old ancestor Lu assigned, let's take my light willow boat back. Wu Fang destroyed the teleportation array and had everyone board the flying boat. The teleportation array led to a different direction, a different underground cave. Everyone had originally planned to hide in the underground cave for a while after rescuing Zhao Susu, but now that the Silver Wolf King and all the Yao creatures on Snowfeather Mountain were dead, there was naturally no need to hide in the underground cave. 151. Run. There is trouble. The Great Light Fist Seal. On the other side, Lu Changsheng had already arrived at the ice plain where the Silver Wolf clan resided. Silver wolves liked the colder the place, the more they liked it. Even the Silver Moon Palace, where the Silver Wolf King lived, was crafted from ice crystals, making it incredibly beautiful. Lu Changsheng looked at the vast and magnificent palace, which resembled a work of art, from above the clouds, and a look of appreciation appeared in his eyes. These Yao gods, in addition to being able to fully transform into human race form, were no worse than true human race in terms of enjoying life. What a pity, such a beautiful sight is about to be destroyed. Lu Changsheng sighed deeply, seemingly expressing regret for the passing of beautiful things. The next moment, his colossal divine thought was unleashed. In an instant, all the ice crystal palaces collapsed and melted, turning into a large amount of water vapor that rose into the sky, quickly forming a vast expanse of clouds. Who dares to destroy this king's Silver Moon Palace? An angry roar came from below, and the swirling clouds in the sky violently rippled under this furious roar. Silver Wolf King, lend me your divine soul. A giant purple hand, formed from soul power, descended from the sky. Wherever the hand passed, the space emitted terrifying explosive tremors. The purple palm slowly pressed down, seemingly extremely slow, but in reality, it reached the Silver Wolf King's face in an instant. 8th Tribulation Martial God. Impossible. A huge sense of mortal danger enveloped the Silver Wolf King, its silver gray fur bristled like steel needles, and its body trembled uncontrollably. It couldn't understand why, while it was peacefully staying in its territory, an 8th Tribulation Martial God would suddenly come knocking. It spat out its Dao weapon, the Silver Moon Scissors. The dignified medium-grade Dao weapon was like paper in front of Lu Changsheng's palm print, instantly breaking into more than a dozen fragments. The purple palm continued its descent, directly striking its physical body and crushing it into a puddle of flesh. Afterward, before the Silver Wolf King's divine soul could escape, it found itself in an unfamiliar place after a dizzying spin. Here, it saw many old friends. Divine Tiger King, Demon Flood Dragon King, Dragon Lion King, Snow Feather King, White Fox King, Poisonous Spider King. Except for the elusive ancestral Master Turtle, all the Yao gods of the Yao race were present. Instantly, the Silver Wolf King felt relieved. It turned out that he wasn't being targeted specifically, that person's goal had always been the entire Yao race. When Wu Fang and the others' flying boat passed by the Silver Wolf King's territory, they hesitated whether to take a detour, but then they saw a large number of Yao race members frantically fleeing out of the territory. Among them were even great Yao of the Faxion realm. When they saw Wu Fang and the others, these great Yao even showed expressions as if they had seen a ghost. Run, it's a human race attack. Many great Yao let out terrified screams and turned to flee in another direction. Seeing this, the dozen or so people were all a bit bewildered. When they used to travel in the western wilderness, they were as cautious as street rats. It was only now, relying on the treasures bestowed by the martial god Old Ancestor, that their courage had grown slightly, but they were still treading on thin ice. Now, great Yao of the Faxion realm ran at the sight of them. This was too exaggerated, wasn't it? Soon, they learned what had happened from a captured, intelligent snow eagle. It turned out that the 5 Tribulation Yao god Silver Wolf King had been annihilated by a human race martial god who had appeared from who knows where. Now, the surrounding Yao race members were all afraid of being caught in the crossfire and were fleeing for their lives. Could it be Old Ancestor? The group exchanged glances and then directed their flying boat towards the Silver Moon Palace. However, when they arrived there, they only saw a gigantic palm print spanning dozens of miles, and Lu Changsheng's shadow had long since disappeared. Outside the Sky Demon Cave Heaven, on a desolate piece of land, smoke curled upwards. Lu Changsheng was roasting meat. This was no ordinary beast meat, but dragon meat from the Demon Flood Dragon King. Dang Ai, standing nearby, was practically drooling at the aroma. And Reverend Nianshuan was tirelessly urging Lu Changsheng. Lu, this great brightness fist imprint was personally created by the Buddha. In terms of profundity, it could rank among the top 3 in the Middle Ages. In terms of offensive power, it could even rank first. 600 years ago, the remnant divine thought of Reverend Daokong, our ancestral master, brought out a complete map for obtaining the great brightness fist imprint from the small Thunderclap temple ruins. As long as one has the strength of an 8th Tribulation martial god, they will surely be able to acquire it. With your current strength, acquiring it would be effortless, so why do you keep refusing? Let's discuss this tomorrow. It's already late today. Come, have some meat first. Lu Chengsheng said with a smile. His attitude remained neither agreeing nor refusing. As soon as he returned to the entrance of the Sky Demon Cave Heaven, preparing to take Deng Ai away, he met Reverend Nianshuan, who had been waiting for a long time. This old monk's attitude was initially lukewarm, but after witnessing Lu Chengsheng's complete divine infant, his attitude immediately took a 180-degree turn. He enthusiastically invited him to the small Thunderclap Temple ruins to obtain a long-lost Buddhist divine art, the Great Brightness Fist imprint. He spoke of it very casually, even using the word, obtain, as if a divine art personally created by the Buddha was within reach. But in reality, the small Laiyan temple was one of the Tianyuan continent's famous forbidden lands for the living. Its notorious reputation was not inferior to the Mist Fiend Sea, and it even surpassed the Mist Fiend Sea. Because if you entered the Mist Fiend Sea, if you were lucky, you could still escape with your life. But no one who entered the small Thunderclap Temple ruins had ever come out alive, including Reverend Daokong, the ancestral master of the Great Luminous Temple who had passed through 7 lightning tribulations 600 years ago. 7 tribulation martial god Daokong only managed to escape with a remnant divine thought, and even that remnant divine thought dissipated after a few days. To try and trick Lu Chengsheng into going to such a dangerous place with just a vague promise, did they think he was a fool? However, Lu Chengsheng didn't completely shut down the idea. If one day he felt his strength was strong enough, it wasn't impossible to go and explore. After all, that was the Great Brightness Fist imprint personally created by the Buddha. Besides its unparalleled power, it could also condense a perfect divine infant. Generally speaking, after passing through 9 lightning tribulations, it was time to open the divine apertures. Ordinary methods could open anywhere from hundreds to thousands of divine apertures. And the humanity's undying scripture that Lu Chengsheng cultivated could open an astonishing 12,960 divine apertures. However, to condense a perfect divine infant, this was still far from enough. Because the requirement for a perfect divine infant was 129,600 divine apertures. This showed the preciousness of the Great Brightness Fist imprint. If he could learn the Great Brightness Fist imprint, coupled with Lu Chengsheng's efforts, then he would truly be supreme in heaven and on earth. After finishing the dragon meat, it was already completely dark. Deng Ai patted his belly contentedly and found a flat spot to lie down spread-eagled. The dragon meat was too rich in qi. Even after Lu Chengsheng's special treatment, he could only eat a small piece the size of a fingernail. But even so, he was satisfied. In the past, that demon flood dragon king always bossed him around and threatened him, saying he would wipe out his entire family if he made a mistake. Who would have thought that one day he would be able to eat that guy's meat? As for Reverend Nianshuan, he was meditating and chanting scriptures not far away. He did not eat meat, but Lu Chengsheng's ambiguous attitude still made him feel hopeful, so he was not in a hurry to leave. Lu Chengsheng sat down leaning against a large rock, then opened the simulator. He wanted to probe the depths of the small Laiyan temple in the simulator. If he could retreat safely, it might not be impossible to go and explore. If it was too dangerous, then he would only consider it later. 152. In the chaotic world of demons and Buddhas, a generation of formation masters. System: recharge 16 soul crystals. Recharge successful. Current balance is 16 gold. Do you wish to start the simulation immediately? Yes. 16 gold consumed. Simulation begins. At 17, you continuously slew 7 great demon gods in the Western Barrens. News spread, and all forces on the Tianyuan continent were shaken. But when you returned to the entrance of the Sky Demon Cave Heaven, preparing to pick up Deng Ai, the Array Grand Master, you found that Reverend Nianshuan of Great Luminous Temple had long been waiting. He hoped that you could accompany him to the small Thunderclap Temple ruins to obtain the Great Brightness Fist imprint, personally taught by the Buddha. Afterward, he would share a portion of the Great Brightness Fist imprint legacy with you. You pondered for several days and agreed. Afterward, you set off for small Thunderclap Temple. Considering Deng Ai's status as an Array Grand Master, entering the ruins might have a miraculous effect, so you brought him along. Upon arriving at the small Thunderclap Temple ruins, you encountered a large number of skeletal monk soldiers in the outer area. Reverend Nianshuan took action and easily converted them. Just as the conversion was about to end, a white bone bodhisattva, hidden behind the scenes incomparable to a 6th tribulation martial god, suddenly attacked Reverend Nianshuan. Fortunately, you assisted in time, allowing him to escape disaster. With such danger in the outer area, you became even more cautious about the path ahead. Next, you encountered other perilous situations such as the thousand-handed ghost mother, the headless Buddha corpse, and the soul-bewitching Buddhist chants, but you resolved them all with your powerful strength, comparable to an 8th tribulation martial god. Finally, you successfully reached the destination indicated on the map left by Reverend Daokong's remnant thought. There, you saw a huge golden fist imprint. Beneath the fist imprint, a mass of dark devilish chi was suppressed, from which the wails of ghosts and wolves could be heard. Above the fist imprint was a Buddhist scripture on gold foil, with "Great Brightness Fist Imprint" written on its cover. As soon as you entered this place, the myriad Buddha's great formation was activated, trapping all three of you. Just as you were searching for a way to break the formation, the devilish chi suppressed by the golden fist imprint transformed into a monk wearing a black kasaya. The monk told you that if you could save him, he could break the myriad Buddha's great formation for you and even give you the genuine Great Brightness Fist Imprint. Unexpectedly, Reverend Nianshuan uncharacteristically refused, saying that anything suppressed by the Buddha's Dharma seal must be an extremely evil and dangerous individual. Even if he were to be trapped and die there, he would not release him. You did not express your stance but instead asked Dangai if he could break the myriad Buddha's great formation. Dangai smiled bitterly, saying that if given 50 years, he might be able to break the formation, but his lifespan was now only 20 to 30 years. Upon hearing this, you fell silent, because you could sense that the myriad Buddha's great formation was constantly eroding your physical body and divine soul. At this rate, within 10 years, your spirit and form would be annihilated. Even if Dangai could break the formation, it would be of no avail. So, either way, it's death. Lu Chengsheng frowned upon seeing this. The monk in the black kasaya clearly looked like an evil being, possibly the culprit behind the destruction of Small Layan Temple back then. Small Layan Temple was personally established by Shakyamuni, the Buddha, 5,000 years ago. At that time, it was a paramount, transcendent force on the Tianyuan continent, with over 10 martial gods in its temple, and no one dared to provoke it. However, not long after Shakyamuni's ascension, Small Layan Temple met with misfortune. Not only did it become a dead land overnight, but anyone who entered never came out again. Reverend Daokong, a 7th tribulation martial god, only managed to escape with a remnant thought. Afterward, he left a map and warned future generations not to enter unless they possessed the strength of an 8th tribulation martial god. The annihilation of Small Layan Temple overnight was one of the greatest mysteries of the Middle Ancient Era. Now, in the deepest part of the ruins, this monk in a black kasaya was found suppressed here. To say there was no connection between the two was truly hard to believe. Of course, it was also possible that he was suppressed here later by someone else. But no matter the situation, releasing him did not seem like a wise choice. You might even be devoured by him. However, now trapped in the myriad Buddha's great formation, not releasing him also meant death. Since death was inevitable either way, it was better to take a gamble. Because you did not wish to die in the myriad Buddha's great formation, you restrained Reverend Nianshuan and agreed to the mysterious monk's request. But you also had a condition. Besides the Great Brightness Fist Imprint and breaking the myriad Buddha's great formation, the monk must also make a heavenly Tao oath never to harm the three of you. The monk said, "Interesting," then agreed to your request and made the heavenly Tao oath. Afterward, you followed the monk's instructions, attacking the weak points of the golden fist imprint from the outside while he resisted it from within. With this coordinated effort, 3 days later, the monk broke free from the seal. He threw the genuine Great Brightness Fist Imprint to you, then released all the trapped evil beings in Small Layan Temple, before laughing loudly and departing. Due to the rampant evil beings, you cautiously spent a month to exit the ruins. During this time, Dangai's masterful formation attainments contributed greatly. Without him, the Array Grand Master, it would have been very difficult for just you and Reverend Nianshuan to leave the Small Layan Temple ruins alive. After leaving the ruins, you learned that the demon monk was causing a monstrous slaughter in Shenzhou. Everywhere he passed, everyone's flesh and divine soul would be devoured by him, and even Great Luminous Temple had been reduced to ruins. Reverend Nianshuan said that all this originated from his greed and wished to use his remaining body to stop this catastrophe. When he found the demon monk and tried to persuade him to do good, he was sealed by the demon monk. You sighed upon hearing this, then returned to Bodhi Cave Heaven with Dangai, avoiding the world. The red-haired monster in the cave heaven was awakened by the aura of your divine infant. After a great battle, the red-haired monster died by your hand. The curse it uttered before its death was blocked by your poisonous Spider King's divine soul. At 20, you refined the soul crystals left by Zhang Zhao and the divine souls of the remaining 5 great demon gods, excluding the poisonous Spider King. Your divine infant grew by 1 foot and 5 inches. At 21, as Deng Ai had little lifespan left, you decided to follow him to learn the Tao of Formation, lest his skills be lost. A month later, you entered the Tao of Formation. Half a year later, you became a formation apprentice. At 25, you became a formation expert. In the same year, your Great Brightness Fist imprint became rudimentary, and you successfully learned the first form of the Great Brightness Fist imprint, like a Buddha spreading the Dharma. At 30, you learned the Golden Eagle King's innate soul technique, Void Exile. At 33, the poisonous Spider King's divine soul turned into a deranged monster and was exiled by you into the spatial turbulence using the Void Exile technique. At 34, you diligently cultivated the Tao of Formation. At 36, under Deng Ai's nearly 20 years of guidance, you became a formation great master. You could now set up formations that could threaten martial gods. At 41, Zhang Kaling successfully passed her first lightning tribulation, becoming a martial god. You celebrated grandly for her. At 45, Deng Ai's lifespan ran out. He passed away peacefully one night, at the age of 491. After Deng Ai's death, you encountered a bottleneck in the Tao of Formation, so you began to independently study the Earth Extremity Kunare scripture. At 47, you successfully learned the second form of Great Brightness Fist imprint, Buddha's Light Illuminates. At 60, after many years of dedicated research, you finally became an Array Grand Master. The formations you set up could now threaten 9 tribulation martial gods. 153. 100 Years of Changes, the Secret Collection of the First Emperor. The Tao of Formation is too terrifying. Lu Chengsheng took a deep breath, his heart unable to calm down for a long time. He thought about himself, having simulated hundreds and thousands of times to achieve his current strength. Yet, in the simulator, he could threaten a 9 tribulation martial god with formations in just over 40 years. It was truly unbelievable. Of course, Lu Chengsheng also knew that his speed in becoming an Array Grand Master was indeed extremely fast. An ordinary person who diligently studies the Tao of Formation for several hundred years and becomes a Formation Great Master is considered a remarkable achievement. Yet, he became an Array Grand Master in just a few decades. The reason Lu Chengsheng could learn so quickly was naturally inseparable from his powerful divine soul strength. His current divine soul strength was definitely not weaker than an 8 tribulation martial gods. Coupled with the guidance of Deng Ai, an Array Grand Master who could be summoned at will, and the help of the Earth Extremity Kun Array scripture, a top-tier formation book, Lu Chengsheng was able to create such a miracle. Of course, even after becoming an Array Grand Master, setting up a formation that could threaten a 9 tribulation martial god was not an easy task. It required a large amount of rare materials for setting up formations. Formations like those at the entrances of the 3 teachings and 6 sects and the Sky Demon Cave Heaven were the culmination of the efforts of successive Array Grand Masters, gradually perfected over time. If he really had the time to set up such a formation, Lu Chengsheng himself would have long since become a 9 tribulation martial god and could break through the formation with brute force. For him, the greatest use of being an Array Grand Master was to decipher other top-tier formations, preventing himself from falling into a desperate situation within a formation. This undoubtedly represented another significant improvement in his life-saving ability. At 61 years old, you learned the Demon Flood Dragon King's innate soul art, Undying Dragon Body. At 63 years old, you learned the soul art left by Zhang Zhao, Summoning Wind and Rain. At 64 years old, your divine soul strength increased to a certain extent. In the same year, Zhang Kaling passed her second lightning tribulation. At 70 years old, you successfully learned the third move of the Great Brightness Fist imprint, Celestial Buddha Asks. At 75 years old, you completely mastered all the formations in the Earth Extremity Kun Array scripture. You made further progress in the Tao of Formation. At 90 years old, you successfully learned the fourth move of the Great Brightness Fist imprint, Bodhi Epiphany. At 93 years old, your divine soul strength increased to a certain extent. At 94 years old, you learned the soul art left by Zhang Zhao, Scattering Beans into Soldiers. Are these 2 soul arts left by Zhang Zhao so difficult to learn? Lu Chengsheng felt a little surprised. At 31 years old, he had learned the Golden Eagle King's innate soul art, Void Exile. Yet, he only learned summoning wind and rain at 63 years old. As for the soul art scattering beans into soldiers, he didn't learn it until he was 94. By then, he had already learned most of the great brightness fist imprint, personally taught by the Buddha. Was this scattering beans into soldiers even more difficult than the divine skill personally taught by the Buddha? At 97 years old, your divine soul strength increased to a certain extent. At 109 years old, you successfully learned the fifth move of the great brightness fist imprint, myriad Buddhas bow to the ancestor. By now, you have learned all the moves of the great brightness fist imprint. You feel that you can fight a 9 tribulation martial god. Afterward, you left Bodhi cave heaven and came to the outside world. Your strength improvement was too slow within the cave heaven, so you planned to condense a 9-foot 9-inch divine infant in the outside world, preparing to open your divine aperture. You walked through the human race territory, which you had left for nearly 100 years, and found that things had long since changed beyond recognition. 92 years ago, the demon monk wreaked havoc upon the world, unleashing boundless slaughter. More than half of the human race's common people died at his hands, and whales filled the land. Even the 3 teachings and 6 sects had no choice but to flee overseas to seek survival. After the demon monk rampaged through the human race territory for 10 years, he finally set his sights on the barbarian race. Just as the demon monk intended to annihilate the barbarian race, a divine being descended from the 9 heavens. After a world-shaking battle, the demon monk was gravely wounded and fled, his whereabouts unknown. After the demon monk disappeared, people referred to that dark and chaotic period of history as the Demon Buddha Calamity. After the Demon Buddha Calamity ended, the human race's strength was less than 1/10 of what it once was. The barbarian race seized the opportunity to cross Liangji Mountain and march south. Led by the 10 barbarian gods, they swept through everything like a hot knife through butter. In just 7 or 8 short years, they transformed the former Great Qin territory into barbarian race land. From then on, the human race became slaves of the barbarian race, enduring humiliation and torment. To completely rule the human race and incorporate the human race's dragon chi into the barbarian race specifically spent 10 years destroying the 8 Desolations sacred dragon array. After this, the human race's dragon chi entirely belonged to the barbarian race. A few years later, the barbarian race used their invincible iron cavalry to flatten the Western Desolate, bringing the Yao race under their rule as well. Thus, after ancient times, the Tian Yuan continent was once again unified, only this time the protagonist was not the human race, but the barbarian race. After the barbarian race unified the Tian Yuan continent, their dragon chi greatly increased. Perhaps it was due to the favor of heaven and earth's luck, for 2 years later, the first emperor's secret treasure, hidden beneath the imperial mausoleum in Shenyang City, actually revealed its traces. With the help of the Tianji Pavilion, which had defected to the barbarian race retrieved the first emperor's secret treasure without any losses, and from it obtained over 1,500 soul crystals and a number of Dao soldiers. So many soul crystals! Lu Chengsheng's eyes almost turned green when he saw this. Over 1,500 soul crystals. The soul crystals left by Zhang Zhao instantly became unappealing. If they fell into Lu Chengsheng's hands, crushing the divine court would no longer be a pipe dream. But where did the first emperor obtain so many soul crystals? Amidst his great joy, Lu Chengsheng couldn't help but be full of questions. 2,000 years ago, the Qin state swept away the 6 states and unified the human race territory. In this process, indeed many martial gods were killed. But even if all the divine souls of the fallen martial gods were refined into soul crystals, it would only be 400 or 500. The difference from over 1,500 was not insignificant. Moreover, the Qin state at that time implemented a military merit system. After the divine souls of the killed enemy martial gods were refined into soul crystals, they were basically all rewarded, making it unlikely for them to be left behind. So where did these over 1,500 soul crystals come from? Could it be that the first emperor obtained the complete legacy of a certain ancient great sect? In ancient times, there were many 9 tribulation martial gods. If this were truly the case, it would be entirely plausible. However, recalling that the first emperor once obtained a complete true dragon remains, Lu Chengsheng vaguely felt that there might be a significant connection between the two. After obtaining the first emperor's secret treasure, the strength of the barbarian race's high-ranking members greatly increased. Not only did their top expert He Lianqi successfully pass his 8th lightning tribulation, but 9 new barbarian gods also emerged. Facing the barbarian race's surging power, many top human race forces chose to submit to their might. You traveled through the former Great Qin territory for 3 months and discovered that the mysterious Maiden Sect, Sun Radiance Sect, and Divine Moon Sect had all disappeared over the course of 100 years, leaving behind only ruins. Especially the mysterious Maiden Sect, it was unknown what changes occurred in its cave heaven, as the barbarian race even dispatched heavy troops to guard it. During these 3 months, while traveling, you quietly hunted down martial gods from various major forces. By the time the barbarian race's high-ranking members reacted, over 10 martial gods had already died at your hands. The barbarian race's high-ranking members were furious upon hearing the news. He Lianqi, the barbarian race's top expert, immediately led 12 barbarian gods, 5 human race martial gods, and 2 Yao gods to jointly encircle and suppress you. 154. Scattering beans to create soldiers, accepting the inheritance of the Great Light Fist Seal. You did not escape, but instead set up a simplified version of the heaven-trapping earth-sinking Great Formation on the spot, and then used the scattering beans into soldiers technique to summon 10 golden-armored divine beings comparable to 1 tribulation martial gods, preparing to wipe out He Lianqi and his group. He Lianqi and the others soon arrived, relying on their numerical superiority and 3 peerless Great Dao weapons. They directly stepped into the Great Formation, wanting to finish the battle quickly. However, as soon as the heaven-trapping earth-sinking Great Formation was activated, it instantly killed 6 martial gods on the opposite side, and 10 golden-armored divine beings rushed out, causing 3 more deaths to the opponent in one encounter. Finally, He Lianqi used the peerless Great Dao weapon, the God-slaying axe, to break through the Great Formation and slay the 10 golden-armored divine beings, thus turning the tide. Just as He Lianqi was breaking the formation and could not be distracted, you used the soul technique Void Exile to banish the other 2 peerless Great Dao weapons into the Void Turbulence. Afterward, He Lianqi roared and lunged at you, but what awaited him was a Great Brightness Fist imprint. He Lianqi, along with the other remaining martial gods, were all turned to ashes under a single Great Brightness Fist imprint. The news of He Lianqi's group being completely annihilated spread, and the entire barbarian race was filled with panic and unease. The barbarian emperor, Bar, immediately set up an altar for sacrifice, begging the heavens to punish you, this great enemy. At this time, due to excessive consumption, you returned to Bodhi Cave Heaven to rest for a while. Just the first form of the Great Brightness Fist imprint consumed 80% of your soul power. 7 days later, when your divine soul power had almost recovered, a divine being walked into Bodhi Cave Heaven and said that you were an anomaly and should be executed. You shattered the void realm and escaped, but were quickly caught up by the divine being. In despair, you unleashed the second form of the Great Brightness Fist imprint, Buddha's light illuminates, injuring the divine being, while you yourself died from the backlash of the Great Brightness Fist imprint due to excessive consumption. You died. The Great Brightness Fist imprint is truly terrifying, as expected of a direct legacy from the Buddha. Lu Changsheng's heart trembled. This should be the most terrifying peerless grade technique he had learned so far. Even the Great 5 Elements Sword Formation had to rank below it. It could allow Lu Changsheng to injure a 9 heavens divine being across realms, which the Great 5 Elements Sword Formation could not do. However, although this cultivation technique is extremely terrifying, it can only be used as a trump card for now. Lu Changsheng sighed slightly. Just the first form, like a Buddha spreading the Dharma, consumed 80% of his divine soul power, and the second form, Buddha's light illuminates, even drained him dry, causing his sudden death. The consumption of the latter 3 forms was even more unimaginable. Perhaps, only by condensing a perfect divine infant can one freely cast this cultivation technique. The Great Brightness Fist imprint, during the Middle Ages, was the #1 offensive technique. The driving force required to cast it was also unparalleled. In fact, divine soul power only acted as a fulcrum to leverage the power of heaven and earth when casting this peerless grade technique. Even so, this fulcrum was overwhelmed and could not bear the pressure brought by the Great Brightness Fist imprint. It seemed reasonable that it could injure a 9 heavens divine being from the divine court. Also, scattering beans into soldiers is very good, but 10 golden armored divine beings comparable to 1 tribulation martial gods are a bit few, making it difficult to pose a threat to high-level martial gods. If there were thousands, it would be much better. Lu Changsheng murmured. After all, this was a soul technique he spent over 70 years learning, and its power should still have a lot of room for improvement. Simulation ended. You can retain one of the following items. 1. Cultivation realm at 109 years old. 2. Cultivation experience at 109 years old. I choose 2. In this simulation, most of the time was spent on formations, soul techniques, and peerless grade techniques, so the progress in cultivation was not too significant. Not to mention insignificant progress, even if he had passed a lightning tribulation this time, Lu Chengsheng would still choose 2. Formation Dao experience, cultivation techniques, and soul techniques, each one was very rare. If he didn't choose this time and had to restart after passing the lightning tribulation, the soul crystals required would double. And the lightning tribulation could be triggered at any time. As Lu Chengsheng made his choice, a vast amount of formation experience began to appear in his mind, just as if he had personally acquired it, making it very familiar. In just a dozen breaths, Lu Chengsheng's formation experience reached the top tier of the Tianyuan continent. He could freely arrange all formations in the earth extremity Kun array scripture, provided he had sufficient materials. Not only formation Dao experience, Lu Chengsheng also found himself becoming extremely sensitive to the power of space. After all, formations, especially teleportation formations, were inherently a use of the power of space. Following the formation experience, soul technique experience appeared. In the simulation, Lu Chengsheng learned a total of 4 soul techniques: Void Exile, Undying Dragon Body, Summoning Wind and Rain, and Scattering Beams into Soldiers. Lu Chengsheng was particularly interested in the Undying Dragon Body and Scattering Beams into Soldiers. These 2 soul techniques, one was to enhance his own physical body strength, and the other was to increase his offensive means. Based on the information feedback after learning the Undying Dragon Body, Lu Chengsheng estimated that with his current divine soul power, to cultivate his physical body to a level comparable to a peerless grade Dao weapon, he would need to temper it with full effort at least 100 times. After each soul power tempering, even without considering the recovery time of divine soul power, the physical body would need about 10 years to adapt. 100 times would mean over 1,000 years of continuous tempering. How to put it, it was still very difficult. But as long as there were enough soul crystals, everything would not be a problem. However, the soul crystals Lu Chengsheng currently had were clearly not enough. Currently, 16 soul crystals for one simulation, and after passing another lightning tribulation, it would double to 32 soul crystals per simulation. With this calculation, he probably couldn't simulate many times. But there was no need to worry too much. After all, the first emperor's secret treasure was still waiting for him. As for scattering beams into soldiers, it surprised Lu Chengsheng a bit. It turned out that the ultimate strength of the summoned golden armored divine beings was not limited to the 1 tribulation martial god level in the simulation. Instead, it was determined by the materials and the amount of soul power used. If you used stronger summoning materials and consumed more soul power, you could completely summon golden armored divine beings with strength comparable to your own, and they could exist for up to 3 days. Only with such power could it be worthy of Lu Chengsheng having learned it for so long. After the soul technique experience was also instilled, a golden Sanskrit character appeared within Lu Chengsheng's divine soul, then exploded with a terrifying burst of light. Lu Chengsheng's eyes immediately saw such a scene. A Buddha radiating boundless light, sitting in a golden pure land. Then the Buddha suddenly stood up, raised a golden arm, bent 5 fingers, and transformed into a fist imprint representing great vows, great satisfaction, and great power. Endless martial Dao true concepts instantly surged down, and Lu Chengsheng's eyes instantly became dazed. By the time he had finished receiving the legacy and regained consciousness, he found that the east was gradually lightening, and rays of dawn were appearing. Unknowingly, an entire night had passed. It was unprecedented for him to receive martial Dao experience for such a long time. However, Lu Chengsheng understood in his heart that this was not entirely due to receiving the martial Dao true concept. The moment the great brightness fist imprint legacy appeared, his divine soul fell into a concept of great bliss and great satisfaction. If the duration had been a little longer, he might even have become a follower of the Buddha. Fortunately, his divine soul power was strong enough. The Buddhist scriptures he had studied before also gave him a certain resistance to Buddhist nature. Plus, the simulator filtered it once. That's why he was able to break free so quickly. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. It seems that this great brightness fist imprint is not only incredibly powerful, but also carries the infusion of power of faith. In the future, unless it's a critical moment, I should use it cautiously. Lu Chengsheng did not want to lose himself and become a devotee of the Buddha, bowing and worshipping Buddha statues every day. Lu Chengsheng glanced at Deng Ai and Reverend Nianshuan again. Deng Ai was still lying sprawled out, sleeping. But Reverend Nianshuan was looking at him with a startled and uncertain gaze. 155. 6 Thunder Tribulations, Opening Up the Divine Orifice. The unkillable Shu Fu. He didn't know why, but last night, Lu Changsheng continuously released an immense aura of brightness, almost making him mistake Lu Changsheng for the reincarnation of a Vajra Bodhisattva. If he couldn't defeat Lu Changsheng, just based on Lu Changsheng's performance last night, he would have surely declared, "You are destined for my Buddha," and forcibly converted him to Buddhism. Lu, just now, it's nothing, nothing. I was cultivating a demonic technique last night and had some minor breakthroughs. Since Lu Changsheng said that, Reverend Nianshuan certainly couldn't continue the conversation. He couldn't possibly say, "Why does your demonic technique resemble my Buddhist divine skill?" That would be like smearing mud on himself. Seeing Reverend Nianshuan quiet down, Lu Changsheng turned his back to him and opened the simulator again. Anyway, it was still early, so he could run another simulation. This time, the target was the first Emperor's secret treasure. System, recharge 16 soul crystals and continue the simulation. Recharge successful, consuming 16 currency. Simulation begins. At 17, you arrived at Shenyang Palace in the Great Qin Imperial City, broke through the ancestral Dragon Grand Formation, and successfully killed the chief eunuch Wei Taixian, the retired Emperor Qin Junyi, and Emperor Ganming Qin Guan, shaking the world. Half a year later, you finally found the first Emperor's secret treasure beneath the Imperial Tomb. It turned out the first Emperor's secret treasure was hidden within the Imperial Jade Seal, and the Imperial Jade Seal was concealed in the deep space of the Imperial Tomb, making it difficult for even a 9 Tribulation Martial God to detect. Subsequently, within the internal space of the Imperial Jade Seal, you discovered Emperor Gaoshan Qinyi, who had undergone tribulation 6 times. He was in there refining the Imperial Jade Seal. You killed him with a single palm strike. It really was Emperor Gaoshan Qinyi. I didn't expect him to be hidden within the Imperial Jade Seal. Lu Changsheng was a bit surprised. However, at this time, Qinyi had only undergone tribulation 6 times. According to previously simulated information, he would probably undergo his 7th lightning tribulation within 20 years, becoming a high-grade martial god. But upon encountering Lu Changsheng, everything came to naught. Subsequently, you obtained over 1,500 soul crystals, more than 10 medium-grade Dao weapons, 5 high-grade Dao weapons, and 1 peerless-grade Dao weapon, the Imperial Jade Seal. Afterward, you declared yourself regent in the Imperial Court and installed the Prince of Yang as a puppet emperor, with the dynastic title Xingwu. At 19, you refined hundreds of soul crystals and all the demon god divine souls, and your divine infant reached 9 feet 9 inches. Later, you found a random excuse to launch a military campaign against Tianji Pavilion. Tianji Pavilion was quickly destroyed under the onslaught, but Jai Xingzi, before his death, showed a strange smile and said that he had already found an unbeatable great enemy for you. After speaking, he self-destructed. After annihilating Tianji Pavilion, you underwent your 6th lightning tribulation in Tianji Pavilion's Great Evolution Cave Heaven. After successfully undergoing tribulation, you opened up 3,600 divine apertures, and your strength was comparable to a 9 tribulation martial god. Even so, recalling Jai Xingzi's words, you still had a faint sense of unease. As expected, not long after, something happened at Shenyang Palace. Shu Fu, the founder of the Fang Xian sect, who had been missing for 2,000 years, reappeared. Every day, he refined immortal pills in the alchemist's hall, where he used to refine pills for the first emperor, and then forced Emperor Xingwu to consume them. With his strength as an 8th tribulation martial god, Emperor Xingwu could not resist and could only eat them. After observing secretly for several days, you came before Shu Fu, wanting to clarify his origins. Shu Fu ignored you, merely stiffly repeating the actions of alchemy, feeding the Qin Emperor pills. You captured Shu Fu and tried to search his divine soul, but you were astonished to find that Shu Fu had no divine soul within his body. So you blasted him to death with a punch. Seeing Shu Fu's remains after his death, you felt a little relieved. However, before you could rejoice for long, early the next morning, you discovered that Shu Fu had resurrected and reappeared in Shenyang Palace. Next, you used Void Exile to banish him, used the Great 5 Elements Sword Formation to shred him, used the Great Brightness Fist Imprint to suppress him. No matter what method you used to kill him, he would reappear the next day. Thus, under continuous death and resurrection, Emperor Xingwu continuously consumed Shu Fu's immortal pills for 3 months, and then began to lose his sanity and become deranged. So you deposed Emperor Xingwu and enthroned Prince Rui as the new emperor of Great Qin, with the dynastic title Kaitai. Seeing that even after killing him dozens of times, you couldn't stop Shu Fu from resurrecting, you no longer bothered with him, but instead began to cultivate in seclusion. However, every once in a while, you would appear to replace a new emperor who had gone mad after eating immortal pills. At 20, you refined all the soul crystals, and the number of divine apertures you opened reached 4,200, increasing your strength significantly again. At 21, you held a martial god banquet in Shenyang Palace, inviting martial gods from all over the world. All the martial gods, intimidated by your might, dared not refuse, and even 3 barbarian gods came. When the banquet officially began, you revealed your fangs. First, you used the ancestral dragon grand formation to trap all the martial gods, and then you suppressed and killed them all at once. At the martial god banquet, as many as 25 martial gods died. For a time, the world fell silent, and countless forces were terrified and even trembling. At 22, after refining the divine souls of these 25 martial gods, you opened another 600 divine apertures, and your strength increased considerably. After coming out of seclusion, you extensively plundered soul crystals from all over the world. When you heard that the Yuming sect still had several martial gods, you went to the Yuming sect's lair. Here, you killed Saitagarba, who had undergone tribulation 8 times, and then successively killed the Yama Hall Master, Chuzhong Hall Master, and Mount Tai Hall Master, 3 martial gods. Afterward, you discovered over 200 soul crystals in the Yuming sect's treasury. You were overjoyed and were about to return with your bounty when a strange divine being descended from the 9 heavens. He said that you had ruined his Dao lineage and deserved to be punished. After speaking, he attacked you. After a great battle, the divine being was severely wounded, and you were also killed by the divine being. I didn't expect this Yuming sect to be the Dao lineage left behind by a certain divine lord of the divine court. It seems its legacy has lasted for tens of thousands of years. Lu Chengsheng was surprised, because it was widely rumored that the founder of the Yuming sect was the famous Yuming Taoist from the Middle Ages, but now it seems that is not the case. Its origin can be traced back to ancient times. In this simulation, besides the origin of the Yuming sect, the biggest surprise was probably the unkillable Shu Fu. 2,000 years ago, Shu Fu was the exclusive alchemist of the first emperor, Qin Zheng. Later, for some unknown reason, he angered the first emperor and was personally executed by him. Unexpectedly, 2,000 years later, he appeared in this bizarre, unkillable form. Shu Fu's strength is also a major mystery. The simulator said he had the strength of an 8th tribulation martial god, but he had no divine soul. However, without a divine soul, how could he possess the strength of an 8th tribulation martial god? Lu Chengsheng suddenly thought of the soul technique he learned from Zhang Zhao's legacy, scattering beans into soldiers. The golden armored divine beings created by it also had no divine soul but possessed the strength of a martial god. Could it be that Shu Fu was a puppet created by the person behind the scenes using a similar soul technique? But Shu Fu could resurrect every day, which is equivalent to creating an 8th tribulation martial god puppet every day using the power of the divine soul. So how terrifying must the strength of the person behind the scenes be? Furthermore, what was the purpose of expending such great effort? Was it just to feed the Qin Emperor immortal pills every day and then poison him into idiocy? There are too many mysteries. Perhaps the answer can be found from Jai Xingzi. Simulation ended. You can retain one of the following. 1. The cultivation realm at 22 years old. 2. The cultivation experience at 22 years old. 156. One punch breaks the thunder tribulation. Heaven and God unite, the secret of the divine orifice. Lu Chengsheng stood up. Reverend Nianshuan looked over, puzzled. Was he finally leaving this place? Even Deng Ai, who had been sound asleep, woke up. He appeared to be sleeping, but in reality, he had been paying attention to Lu Chengsheng's movements the whole time. Deng Ai yawned and muttered, "Don't even think about leaving this old man here. I just want to undergo tribulation in the cave heaven, I'm not leaving. You two can continue to rest." After Lu Chengsheng finished speaking, he entered the Sky Demon Cave Heaven's teleportation gate. Upon hearing this, Reverend Nianshuan suddenly soared forward. Lu Chengsheng had already condensed a complete divine infant. If he were to undergo tribulation again, wouldn't it be the 9th lightning tribulation? However, this 9th lightning tribulation was the most perilous of the 9-fold lightning tribulations. Since ancient times, countless prodigies and heroes had been reduced to ashes beneath it. Your attitude towards undergoing tribulation is far too casual, isn't it? And he even chose the sky demon cave heaven to undergo tribulation. One must know that this sky demon cave heaven was opened by a Yao race great power, and it is extremely hostile to the human race. Choosing such a place to undergo tribulation, aren't you asking to die faster? Thinking of this, Reverend Nianshuan felt it necessary to persuade Lu Changsheng, so he also followed him in. Wait for this old man. Deng Ai also quickly ran towards the teleportation gate, he didn't dare stay there alone. After entering the sky demon cave heaven, Lu Changsheng immediately chose a spot. Immediately, the divine infant in his sea of consciousness rapidly grew stronger. 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet. Only when it reached its limit of 9 feet 9 inches did the divine infant stop growing. And this did not signify the end of the breakthrough. Soon, one bright spot after another bloomed on Lu Changsheng's divine infant, each representing an opened divine aperture. With each additional divine aperture, Lu Changsheng felt his divine soul elevate a bit more. At this moment, he felt his divine soul dancing with the universe, and the immeasurable power of the world was at his command. This immense power of the world included, but was not limited to, origin chi, more so, it was the power of this world itself. Origin chi was merely icing on the cake compared to this power. Even without origin chi, Lu Changsheng could still merge his spirit with the heavens and unleash world-destroying power. Before opening his divine apertures, Lu Changsheng could also mobilize this power, but at that time, it was the spirit merging with the heavens, whereas now, it was the heavens merging with the spirit. The former is the divine soul actively communicating with the heavens and earth, where the heavens and earth maintain a high and mighty posture, and if you implore them, they reluctantly bestow some power upon you. The latter is the heavens and earth actively responding to the divine soul, with the divine soul holding the dominant position, much like having servants always at your side, not only fulfilling every request but also ensuring your satisfaction. After opening the divine apertures, with the heavens and spirit merged, using the same soul technique significantly reduces the consumption of divine soul power, while the power is noticeably enhanced. He could even use multiple soul techniques simultaneously. In addition, the immense power between heaven and earth that could be mobilized was also greatly increased. The more divine apertures opened, the more pronounced these two characteristics would become. If one were to open all 129,600 divine apertures and condense a perfect divine infant, it would probably not be difficult to destroy a cave heaven world with a casual strike. A cave heaven world is at least the size of 4 or 5 prefectures of the Great Qin, and even an 8th tribulation martial god can only damage the surface, making it impossible to completely destroy it. A 9th tribulation martial god who has condensed a perfect divine infant, however, can turn this impossible feat into a reality. The divine apertures within Lu Changsheng's body were opening at an exaggerated speed, reaching 4,800 in just a few breaths. Above his head, clusters of dark clouds were also rapidly gathering. Within the dark clouds, various lightning-formed creatures were colliding and engaging in battle. Each collision emitted a thunderous roar, shaking the heavens and earth. Has it already begun? Reverend Nianshuan stepped out of the teleportation gate, sighing inwardly with regret. But very quickly, he discovered something was amiss. Although the power of this lightning tribulation was extremely strong, it was far from reaching the intensity of the 9th level lightning tribulation. The 9th level lightning tribulation, as the final lightning tribulation, would unleash the frenzied lightning hell. At that time, 10,000 bolts of lightning would strike simultaneously, vowing not to cease until the person undergoing tribulation was utterly annihilated, hence the name, hell. But this lightning tribulation before him seemed to be the 6th level lightning tribulation. Hasn't Lu already condensed his divine infant? Why would he still undergo the 6th level lightning tribulation? As for Deng Ai's cultivation, he couldn't discern which level of lightning tribulation this was, but he clearly saw that the lightning creatures in the thunderclouds, though seemingly chaotic, had flight paths that subtly contained the principles of generation and restraint, seemingly forming some kind of battle formation. As soon as Lu Changsheng's divine soul entered it, they would collectively deliver a fatal blow to him. Should I remind the Lu boy? Deng Ai muttered to himself. However, he was also afraid of getting too close and being affected by the lightning tribulation, his old bones couldn't take the torment. While Reverend Nianshuan was in doubt and Deng Ai was hesitating, they saw a miniature 9-inch Lu Changsheng emerge from Lu Changsheng's sea of consciousness. Upon arriving in the outside world, with each step he took, his height would increase by 1 foot. After 9 steps, he was 9 feet 9 inches tall, transforming into an enlarged version of Lu Changsheng. This enlarged, Lu Changsheng, bore a 90% resemblance to Lu Changsheng's physical body, and his body was covered in dense bright spots. This is divine apertures. So Lu is not an 8th tribulation martial god, but a 9th tribulation martial god with an extremely solid foundation. Reverend Nianshuan was filled with shock. Whether a 9th tribulation martial god currently existed on the Tianyuan continent was still unknown. He never expected to have the fortune of seeing one today. What, a 9th tribulation martial god? Deng Ai, on the other hand, appeared somewhat bewildered. Although he wasn't a martial god, with his formation mastery, he had long mingled in martial god circles and naturally knew how rare a 9th tribulation martial god was. Even Zhang Zhao, who almost overthrew the 3 teachings and 6 sects and the great Qin dynasty back then, was only an 8th tribulation martial god. If the Lu boy truly was a 9th tribulation martial god, wouldn't he be the #1 person on the Tianyuan continent? However, what astonished them even more was yet to come. Now that I have opened my divine apertures and am on par with the heavens, the lightning tribulation holds no mystery, majesty, or danger before me. All of you, become my nourishment. Facing the battle formation formed by the lightning creatures, Lu Changsheng's divine infant didn't even look, directly unleashing a punch. Under the momentum of this punch, space shattered like a mirror, and an immense, invincible power directly struck the entire thundercloud. Amidst the boundless light, a scene emerged. A Buddha raising a golden arm, bending 5-fingered wheels, forming a seal, and striking out. Great brightness fist imprint, first form, like a Buddha spreading the Dharma. Bang! The sky-filled thunderclouds directly exploded. All the lightning was instantly pulverized. Infinite heavenly will and lightning essence, like mountains and seas, surged forth, instantly enveloping Lu Changsheng's divine infant. As expected of the 6th lightning tribulation, the feedback of heavenly will and lightning essence is more than 10 times that of the 5th lightning tribulation. Lu Changsheng did not hesitate, swallowing it all. If it were a 6th tribulation martial god, swallowing so much heavenly will and lightning essence at once would easily cause him to burst. For Lu Changsheng, it didn't feel like too much, only too little. He estimated that even if he refined it all, he could only open a few thousand divine apertures. Compared to the perfect divine infant with 129,600 divine apertures, it was undoubtedly a drop in the bucket. However, a 9-story tower begins with accumulated earth, any increase is ultimately a good thing. 157. Enter Dian Cave Heaven. 3 Jedi of Wuxia Sea. This is the end of the undergoing tribulation. Deng Ai's eyes widened, nearly pulling off his entire beard. The lightning tribulation lasted for several hours, yet you wiped it out with a single punch. Reverend Nianshuan also wore a look of shock, like a mortal who had seen a ghost. What astonished him wasn't that the thundercloud was shattered by Lu Changsheng's punch, but the move Lu Changsheng used. Wasn't this precisely the great brightness fist imprint's first move, like a Buddha spreading the Dharma, recorded in the great luminous temple's ancient texts? How could Lu Changsheng know this move? Reverend Nianshuan had been clinging to Lu Changsheng, unwilling to leave, precisely to have him accompany him to the small thunderclap temple ruins to retrieve the legacy of the great brightness fist imprint. Who knew he had already learned the great brightness fist imprint? Could it be that besides the small thunderclap temple ruins, there were other places in the outside world where one could obtain the great brightness fist imprint? Seeing that Lu Changsheng had completely finished undergoing tribulation and retracted his divine infant into his body, Reverend Nianshuan immediately flew forward, clasped his hands together, and asked, Lu, what you just used, was it the great brightness fist imprint personally taught by our Buddha? That's right, Lu Changsheng admitted it openly. With his current strength, even if he used it openly, what could the great luminous temple do? If Reverend Nianshuan didn't know what was good for him and still wanted him to transcribe a secret manual, he wouldn't mind letting him taste what a righteous iron fist felt like. Seeing Reverend Nianshuan stunned in place, Lu Changsheng took the initiative to say, actually, before yesterday, I didn't know this unique skill. Then, last night, the Buddha entered my dream and imparted this skill to me, so I only just learned it recently. Reverend Nianshuan, learning the great brightness fist in a single night, what does that make of our Buddha's legacy? Even back at the small Layan temple, this divine skill was notoriously difficult to cultivate. Without great wisdom, great perseverance, and great Buddhist affinity, it was simply impossible to learn. However, recalling the strange phenomenon that occurred to Lu Chengsheng last night, Reverend Nianshuan fell silent again. In the end, Reverend Nianshuan said nothing more and left in a daze. He looked as if he had been abandoned by the Buddha, his Buddhist heart shattered. At Lu Chengsheng's request, Deng Ai also left with him. Initially, he brought Deng Ai along to learn the Tao of formation from him. Now, he himself was already a top-tier array grandmaster. Moreover, he had thoroughly comprehended the Earth Extremity Kun array scripture, and his formation attainments surpassed Deng Ai's, so keeping him around would only be a hindrance. The Great Luminous Temple was a good place for retirement, let Deng Ai enjoy his later years there. If he needed him for manual labor in the future, it wouldn't be too late to call him back. Leaving the Sky Demon Cave Heaven, Lu Chengsheng went to Tianji Pavilion. As the #1 intelligence dealer among the 3 teachings and 6 sects, Tianji Pavilion indeed knew too many secrets. Especially the origin of Shu Fu, Lu Chengsheng was very interested. As for information about the Divine Court, Lu Chengsheng didn't hold too much hope. After all, the simulator had made it very clear, he had searched for 3 years in vain on the Tianyuan continent, finding no trace, and the only information was the few words left by Zhang Zhao. To get more information about the Divine Court, there was only hope from the Secret Realm Spirit, that old schemer. As possibly the only person on the Tianyuan continent currently to have opened his divine aperture and be comparable to a 9-tribulation martial god, Lu Chengsheng's speed was naturally terrifying. The Sky Demon Cave Heaven was in the extreme west of the Western Barrens, a distance of over 1.6 million li from Julu Commandery, where Tianji Pavilion was located. But Lu Chengsheng only took a quarter of an hour, or 15 minutes, to travel from the Sky Demon Cave Heaven's entrance to Tianji Pavilion. How to describe this time? Perhaps a mortal strolling around their own house wouldn't even take this long. That's right, for Lu Chengsheng now, the Tianyuan continent was like his own backyard, apart from a few specific places like the Mist Fiend Sea, the Yuming sect's old lair, the small Thunderclap Temple ruins, he could go anywhere else as he pleased. Actually, the Mist Fiend Sea didn't pose too much of a threat to Lu Chengsheng. At least 99% of the dangers had no effect on Lu Chengsheng. But there were still some extremely bizarre things that, even if a 9-tribulation martial god encountered them, could lead to a silent death. Currently discovered on the Tianyuan continent were the 9 Nether Ship, the Heaven-Burying Island, and the Reincarnation Pool. As for whether there were other dangers of the same rank, it was unknown. Lu Chengsheng arrived at Tianji Pavilion and quickly infiltrated it. The sect-protecting formation meticulously arranged by Tianji Pavilion could withstand a 9-tribulation martial god for a while, but for Lu Chengsheng, a top-tier array grandmaster, it only required a little effort to quietly enter the sect. Not here. Could he be in the Great Evolution Cave Heaven? Lu Chengsheng's divine thoughts swept around, but he didn't find any trace of Jai Xingzi. So he went to the entrance of the Great Evolution Cave Heaven and entered it. The few disciples guarding the Cave Heaven's teleportation gate only felt a slight mental daze. When they woke up, everything seemed normal, so they didn't pay much attention. After all, the daze was too short, less than half a breath, and they thought they had just zoned out. Little did they know that in such a short time, someone had already bypassed the formation detecting identity outside the teleportation array and entered the Great Evolution Cave Heaven. The Great Evolution Cave Heaven, according to legend, was opened by the Great Evolution sect, one of the 10 great sects of ancient times. Tianji Zi, the first-generation founder of Tianji Pavilion, accidentally entered the Great Evolution Cave Heaven over 1,000 years ago and obtained part of the Great Evolution sect's legacy, which led to the present-day Tianji Pavilion. It is said that the Great Evolution sect was best at deduction and fate, but unfortunately, it failed to predict its own decline. And Tianji Zi surpassed his predecessors, actually predicting that Tianji Pavilion would be destroyed by an anomaly. Unfortunately, he did not know that his own deductions were also a certainty within the variables. Entering the Great Evolution Cave Heaven, Lu Chengsheng explored for a while but still didn't find Jai Xingzi, though he did read many records of secret information about various major forces. For example, Luo Song's previous life being Xu Zongwu's biological father was actually recorded by Tianji Pavilion over 100 years ago. Also, the mother of the first emperor, Empress Dowager Ji, secretly having an affair with a certain fake eunuch, even giving birth to an illegitimate child who was thrown to his death by the first emperor. This was surprisingly similar to some historical events in his previous life. What surprised Liu Changsheng was that the matter of the first emperor possibly leaving a secret treasure was also recorded, but Tianji Pavilion did not know its exact location. In fact, with Liu Changsheng's current strength, most of the secrets recorded within Tianji Pavilion were like child's play to him. His will was unstoppable. When he encountered problems, he didn't need any schemes or tricks, he could just push through directly. If even with his strength he couldn't solve something, then the so-called secrets wouldn't be of much use either. However, he still memorized much of the content. Although not very useful, it could enhance his understanding of this world. Especially the information about the Middle Ancient and Ancient eras, which was the most interesting part for Liu Changsheng, though the recorded content was not extensive. 158. The evil man came to Shenyang, the anger of Emperor Ganming. Just as Liu Changsheng was touring the Great Evolution Cave Heaven, everything that happened in the Yao race, after a day of fermentation, gradually spread back to the Divine Province. Many people's first reaction was disbelief. After all, the idea of one person single-handedly wiping out almost all the Yao gods and breaching the Sky Demon Cave Heaven was too fantastical. If he had that kind of power, wouldn't he have been invincible long ago? Yet, Liu Changsheng had battled for a long time to kill the three tribulation martial god, Li Zizai, half a month prior. When he appeared a few days ago, although he had passed the second lightning tribulation and his strength had greatly increased, he was only barely on par with the five tribulation martial god, Shu Zongwu. How could he possibly have done the things mentioned above? But whether they believed it or not, as one martial god after another went deep into the western barrens to verify, the annihilated Yao god clans and the dilapidated, undefended entrance to the Sky Demon Cave Heaven all told them the truth with ironclad facts. Thus, the Divine Province was completely shaken. Not only the Divine Province, but even the barbarian race experienced a great upheaval. At one point, 10 barbarian gods gathered at the Manwang Temple, fearing that Liu Changsheng would come knocking. It had been many years since the Tianyuan continent was stirred up by a single person. And the great Peng spreading wings technique that Liu Changsheng had previously used was also dug up by interested parties. The great Peng spreading wings technique is one of the three soul techniques of the humanity's undying scripture. The other two are the lousy spirit fixing technique and the Kunming fish leaping technique. Liu Changsheng could use this technique. Could it be that he obtained Zhang Zhao's legacy? If that were truly the case, his rapid rise would not be incomprehensible. After all, Zhang Zhao was a ruthless individual who nearly overturned the Divine Province by himself back then. However, a problem arose. If this Liu Changsheng truly inherited Zhang Zhao's legacy, would he also target the Great Qin Imperial Court, the three teachings and 6 sects, and the 7 great clans? Would another Yellow Turban rebellion be staged? This could not but cause great concern among the major top forces. And to determine what Liu Changsheng wanted to do next, the natural course of action was to first find his location. So countless people began to get busy. On the other side, Liu Changsheng spent a little over half an hour using his divine thought to record the vast amount of confidential information within the Great Evolution Cave Heaven before leaving the Great Evolution Cave Heaven. Arriving at the Tianji Pavilion mountain gate outside the Cave Heaven, Liu Changsheng found Feng Lin, Jai Xingzi's most valued personal disciple. After controlling him with the Sky Demon Bewitching Spirit technique, he had him send a message to Jai Xingzi using a communication stone. He said that his cultivation had encountered a bottleneck and he wanted to consult him in person, asking when he would return, and subtly probed Jai Xingzi's current location. Jai Xingzi quickly replied, but did not reveal his specific location, instead saying that he would return in a few days after finishing his current tasks. With Jai Xingzi's return time uncertain, Liu Changsheng naturally could not wait for him here indefinitely. Liu Changsheng directly turned Jai Xingzi's 3 personal disciples into his divine soul puppets. As soon as Jai Xingzi returned, he would know immediately. Next, Liu Changsheng planned to go to Shenyang City to obtain the first emperor's secret treasure. And he would stay in Shenyang City for a period of time. Shenyang City was only about 200,000 li away from the Tianji Pavilion in Julu Commandery. An ordinary martial god might take 1 or 2 hours to travel, but for Liu Changsheng, who had already opened thousands of divine apertures, it was merely a short tea-drinking effort. As long as Jai Xingzi returned to Tianji Pavilion, he would not escape his grasp. Internal Affairs Department, Shenyang City. In the pre-Qin period, Shenyang was already the royal city of Great Qin. Since Great Qin unified the divine province, Shenyang has been expanded more than 10 times, developing to this day into a colossal city with a flourishing populace, prosperous industries, and a population of nearly 10 million. Shenyang, in Great Qin, has always been synonymous with safety and prosperity. After all, this is the Great Qin imperial city. Even the Yellow Turban Rebellion 1,000 years ago did not affect it. Under the sun of heaven's feet, who would dare to be presumptuous? However, just today, the bustling pedestrians in Shenyang city were horrified to discover that a gigantic great pung, obscuring the sky and sun, had appeared above the imperial city at some unknown time. As soon as it appeared, the imperial city, spanning hundreds of li horizontally and vertically, plunged into darkness. Lu Chengsheng has come to Shenyang. The Great Qin imperial city was of utmost importance. It encompassed the ears and eyes of countless forces. Before the sky-obscuring Great Pung had even made a move, this news, as if it had grown wings, flew like lightning into the ears of the 3 teachings and 6 sects and the 7 great clans. The Great Pung spreading wings technique, along with this unparalleled divine soul power, could only belong to that peerless fiend who single-handedly flattened the western barons, Lu Chengsheng. Instantly, an unknown number of martial gods set off from various parts of the divine province, rushing towards Shenyang city. Shenyang Palace, Hall of Supreme Harmony. Emperor Ganming, who was holding court, now sat upright, his eyes clouded as he looked out of the hall. Lu Chengsheng's grand arrival at the imperial city must mean something significant is about to happen. Wei Taixian, a red-robed eunuch, immediately stepped forward. Go ask that Lu Chengsheng what he intends to do. Yes, Wei Taixian bowed and assented. He understood that his master was truly enraged this time. Even Zhang Zhao, back then, resorted to covert assassinations and never appeared brazenly above the imperial city like this inheritor. The civil and military officials standing in the Hall of Supreme Harmony also exchanged glances, unsure of what this fiend, Lu Chengsheng, intended. Even the most formidable martial gods of the human race still showed some deference to the imperial family and would not come to challenge the imperial family's authority. But this Lu Chengsheng, without a word, he directly brought a black cloud pressing down on the city, openly provoking the imperial family. Lu Chengsheng had just flattened the western barons, killing at least 7 Yao gods, and now he came to Shenyang to provoke. No one believed he was just visiting. Therefore, Emperor Ganming's fury was imaginable. Especially since Lu Chengsheng had obtained the legacy of Zhang Zhao, the #1 grand rebel, which deepened the gloom in Emperor Ganming's heart. Just as Wei Taixian was dispatched by Emperor Ganming to question him, experts gathered within the palace, acting in unison. They quickly activated the ancestral dragon grand formation, and immediately, many wandering golden dragon shadows appeared in the sky. Seeing this, the people in the imperial city felt much more at ease. This ancestral dragon grand formation was left by the first emperor. It could both attack and defend. Even if a 9 tribulation martial god came, they would not fare well. It was just that it consumed a huge amount of energy, so it was not activated on ordinary days. Now that the ancestral dragon grand formation was open, no matter what Lu Chengsheng's purpose was, he could only return without success. Shenyang City, Guyu Tower. Guyu Tower was one of the largest restaurants in Shenyang City, a place frequently visited by officials and nobles. Currently, the top floor was reserved by others, guarded by men in black, strictly prohibiting anyone, whether imperial relatives or military aristocrats, from approaching. On the top floor, Bai Zhang and Shang Chu sat opposite each other. One was the clan chief of the Mei County Bai clan, and the other was the clan chief of the Nan Commandery Shang clan. Their meeting here was naturally not as simple as catching up. What is this Lu Chengsheng doing in Shenyang? Shang Chu frowned as he looked out the window. 159. I want you, the Great Qin imperial family, to serve me as the master. Shang Chu had originally invited Bai Zhang here to discuss cooperation. The Nan County Chu clan was the bloodline left behind by Shang Yan, a famous general from the Chu state during the pre-Qin period. Their desire to revive the Chu state had not been extinguished for 2 millennia. The Mei County Bai clan was the descendant of Bai Qi, the god of slaughter. Bai Qi's achievements back then overshadowed his lord, and he was granted death due to the Qin king's suspicion. The relationship between the Bai clan and the Great Qin dynasty had always been very cold. Shang Chu had always wanted to cooperate with the Mei County Bai clan. However, Bai Zhang's attitude had been unclear. Recently, he finally relented and agreed to a meeting, only for Lu Chengsheng to disrupt it. As soon as Lu Chengsheng appeared, the terrifying pressure he exuded was more deeply felt the higher one's realm. Naturally, the two of them had no mind to discuss other matters. I never thought. After 2 millennia, a 9 tribulation martial god has finally appeared. Bai Zong's tone was filled with a hint of sighing. That's right, ever since the first emperor unified the divine land and then suddenly died, the human race had never seen another 9 tribulation martial god. Thinking back to the era of the 100 schools of thought in ancient times, 9 tribulation martial gods emerged endlessly. Even after the era of the 100 schools of thought ended, a 9 tribulation martial god would appear every 2 or 3 centuries. However, ever since the divine land was unified, it was as if they had entered an era of the end of the Tao, and 9 tribulation martial gods gradually became unattainable. And Emperor Qinzheng, the first emperor, was the last brilliant flower before the era of the end of the Tao. His appearance might not be a good thing. A few days ago, Jai Xingzi even found me and said that this Lu Changsheng was very likely a demon star, asking me to deal with him together with other martial gods. Now it seems, what Jai Xingzi said was not wrong. Shang Chu snorted coldly. Although he spoke disdainfully of Lu Changsheng, his heart was filled with extreme jealousy. If he had such strength, why would he need to use the banner of reviving the Chu state and try to win people over everywhere? He could just directly declare himself emperor. So what if he's a demon star? Do you dare to attack him? Bai Zhang said faintly. Shang Chu fell silent. After a long while, Shang Chu finally spoke. I indeed don't dare to attack him, but he absolutely doesn't dare to attack the great Qin dynasty. Who in the world didn't know the power of the ancestral dragon grand formation? Even a 9 tribulation martial god would not fare well if they came. If Lu Changsheng dared to act rashly, he would very likely injure himself, and then he would lose all face. However, no sooner had Shang Chu finished speaking. Wei Taixian, who had flown into midair, exploded like fireworks. A majestic 2 tribulation martial god, in front of Lu Changsheng, had no power to resist whatsoever. Lu Changsheng, are you truly going to be an enemy of my great Qin? Seeing Lu Changsheng directly kill Wei Taixian, the chief eunuch he had sent, Emperor Ganming could no longer hold back. He walked out of the Hall of Supreme Harmony, stood in the air, and demanded. Long live His Majesty! Long live, long live, long live! Upon seeing Emperor Ganming's figure, many common people knelt and shouted in unison. Not only the common people, but even martial artists with incredibly firm spiritual wills, just by looking, showed signs of involuntarily kneeling. Because the other party represented not just a person, but this sky, this earth, this entire dynasty. An enemy. The rock's eyes showed a look of mockery. Then the sky suddenly brightened, the rock disappeared, and in its place was only a white-clothed youth, like an immortal descended to the mortal world. Your great Qin dynasty is not qualified to be my opponent. The youth's grand voice, like the sound of the 9 heavens descending, spread to every corner of the imperial city. Then, with an undeniable majesty, he continued, if you are willing to submit to me, I can give you a path to survival. What? To make the great Qin dynasty submit to him? Instantly, Bai Zhang and Shang Chu in the Valley Rain Pavilion felt their hearts pound. The two of them had not expected Lu Changsheng's goal to be this. How arrogant and overbearing was this? However, the common people and martial artists in the imperial city were unimpressed. Ever since the first emperor unified the 6 states, no matter how many ambitious heroes and schemers appeared in the world, the great Qin dynasty's position as the supreme ruler had never been overthrown. Some said this was because the great Qin dynasty was favored by destiny, while others said it was due to the hidden arrangements left by the first emperor. Regardless of the reason, the dynasty had always been high above. Although the madman who appeared today was very strong, the hope of bringing down the great Qin dynasty, which had lasted for 2 millennia and was almost mythologized, was not considered high by the crowd. Emperor Ganming's face in midair turned pale, and he gnashed his teeth in hatred, not expecting this person to be so arrogant as to actually want the dynasty to submit to him. Emperor Ganming sternly rebuked, those who go against the great Tao, their 9 generations should be exterminated. At the same time, a middle-aged emperor wearing a black dragon robe, with a jade belt around his waist and holding the Son of Heaven's dragon sword, ascended into the air from the rear courtyard of Shenyang Palace. Greetings, Supreme Emperor. Many imperial guards and chief eunuchs knelt down with fervent eyes. Emperor Zhengdu, Qin Junyi, this supreme emperor, held a prestige in the palace that was in no way weaker than Emperor Ganming, the reigning emperor. Qin Junyi suppressed his anger and said, My great Qin unified the world, and its national structure is stable. This is a matter of destiny. Even if your strength is unmatched, you cannot hope to do heaven-defying things. Lu Chengsheng laughed. Heaven-defying things? You think too highly of yourself. If Qin Zheng hadn't spent massive human and material resources to set up the 8 Desolations Sacred Dragon Grand Formation back then, your dynasty would have been annihilated countless times already. Even without me today, your great Qin doesn't have many decades left. Sowing discord with evil words, you deserve death. The 8 Desolations Sacred Dragon Grand Formation was a top secret of the dynasty. Even among the imperial clan, only a handful of people knew about it. Now that Lu Chengsheng had directly exposed it, Qin Junyi's anger could no longer be suppressed. With a wave of his hand, the ancestral dragon grand formation was fully activated. Roar, roar, roar. 9 golden dragons, several thousand feet long, were condensed by the ancestral dragon grand formation and lunged at Lu Chengsheng, baring their fangs and claws, in a posture that suggested they would not rest until they tore him to shreds. These 9 golden dragons, several thousand feet long, were all formed by the dragon chi accumulated by Great Qin over 2 millennia, representing the foundation of Great Qin. Even an ordinary 9 tribulation martial god would suffer a considerable loss, or even be injured, if they were to clash head-on. And an 8 tribulation martial god coming here would even face the risk of soul flying away and spirit scattering. Lu Chengsheng already knew from the simulator that the formation eye was in the dry well in the backyard of the Qianqing Palace. As long as the formation eye was destroyed, the ancestral dragon grand formation would naturally collapse without being attacked. In fact, with his attainments as an array grandmaster, he didn't even need to search for the formation eye. He could directly exploit the formation's flaws, and it wouldn't take more than a dozen breaths to break the grand formation. However, both of the above methods were too troublesome for Lu Chengsheng. He chose a simpler and more direct approach. In an instant, a light symbolizing great brightness and immeasurable power suddenly emerged from Lu Chengsheng's body, causing Qin Junyi's face to change drastically. This is... Whoosh, whoosh. Amidst the surging wind and clouds, Lu Chengsheng held nothing back, his divine soul power surging forth, drawing upon the immeasurable power of heaven and earth. A terrifying aura continuously spread from his body. Lu Chengsheng raised his right hand, clenching his 5 fingers into a fist imprint. Great brightness fist imprint, first form, like a Buddha spreading the Dharma. The extremely dazzling light, eclipsing the sun in the sky, instantly spread throughout the entire imperial city. Above Shenyang City, a strange sight suddenly appeared. A colossal golden Buddha spanned the sky, like a Buddha descending to the world. Suddenly, it raised its golden arm, bent its 5 fingers, and transformed into a heaven-destroying, earth-annihilating punch. This is Shang Chu and Bai Zhang in the Valley Rain Pavilion, whooshed to their feet, their faces suddenly drained of color, saying, "The great brightness fist imprint, lost for thousands of years. 160. Destroy the great Qin imperial family. Who is in favor and who is against?" Boom. Under the boundless light, 9 golden gigantic dragons, thousands of feet long, turned into a wisp of smoke and ashes before they could even let out a scream. This earth-shattering punch heavily struck the golden barrier of the ancestral dragon grand formation. Crash. Heart-wrenching sounds of shattering continuously rang out. The barrier formed by the ancestral dragon grand formation shattered into countless pieces, just like a mirror. For 2,000 years, the ancestral dragon grand formation, which had protected the great Qin dynasty from countless crises, was thus breached. However, the fist print's momentum remained undiminished. In the dazzling light, Qin Junyi and Emperor Ganming showed expressions of terror, and with a soft grunt, their bodies turned into dust under the immortal light. It was not just the 2 of them. All those in Shenyang who possessed the Qin bloodline, regardless of their status or identity, were reduced to dust under the illumination of the boundless light. In an instant, the number of people who died in Shenyang City reached hundreds of thousands. Subsequently, the light dissipated, the golden Buddha's phantom slowly vanished, and Lu Chengsheng's figure also disappeared along with it. Shenyang Palace, Hall of Supreme Harmony. Facing the sudden deaths of Emperor Ganming and others, the horrified civil and military officials suddenly discovered a stranger's figure on the dragon throne. Who else could it be but that great villain who had just annihilated the imperial bloodline? From now on, I am the regent of Great Qin. Who agrees and who opposes? Lu Chengsheng looked at the civil and military officials below the hall and said indifferently, "I oppose." As soon as Lu Chengsheng finished speaking, someone jumped out and shouted loudly, Everyone turned to look and saw that it was none other than Wei Wenchang, the Grand Master of Ceremonies. Wei Wenchang was known for his straightforward character and fearlessness of power, often clashing with Emperor Ganming in court, which gave Emperor Ganming many headaches. Emperor Ganming had even privately told his close ministers that if it weren't for Wei Wenchang being an old minister who had served 2 dynasties, he would have executed him long ago. Unexpectedly, Wei Wenchang, who was always marginalized by the emperor in court, was the first to stand up and object. However, Liu Changsheng didn't care who he was. Anyone who dared to defy him would only have one outcome: death. With a flick of his finger, Wei Wenchang's body immediately exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Subsequently, more than a dozen loyal ministers stood out. They knew they would die but still chose to stand up. If Emperor Ganming hadn't died, he would have praised them as backbone ministers. But to Liu Changsheng, they were merely a group of disgusting fleas. Among them, many civil officials even wished to achieve eternal fame through their deaths. Bang, bang, bang. The sounds of flesh and blood exploding continuously rang out. Since they wished to die, Liu Changsheng certainly granted their wishes one by one. Looking at the scattered bones and minced flesh on the ground, the remaining people finally no longer hesitated and directly bowed down. Greetings, Regent, long live the Regent. For most officials, who they served as master didn't matter. Let alone a regent, even if Liu Changsheng wanted to be emperor, they would kowtow until their heads bled for him. The only troublesome point was that Liu Changsheng concentrated all power within himself, making him much harder to deal with than an emperor. An emperor still had to adhere to various rules, and officials could form factions to effectively restrain him. But this Liu Changsheng killed people like chickens, completely without reason. Although many showed no change in expression, they were actually scared to death inside. Don't worry, everyone, I am not a person who kills indiscriminately. Today's morning court can be dismissed. However, I ask you all to maintain order in the city and ensure the normal functioning of the court. Otherwise, if you are thrown into the grand prison or your entire family is executed, it would not look good, would it? Liu Changsheng said with a smile while sitting on the dragon throne. The civil and military officials naturally agreed repeatedly, but inwardly, they were all rolling their eyes. You killed the emperor and the grand emperor and sat on the dragon throne yourself, does that look good? Of course, such words could not be spoken aloud. Hearing that they could leave, everyone felt as if they had received a great pardon, and in a short while, they had all vanished. Soon, only the empty hall of supreme harmony remained. At this moment, a middle-aged man with hawk-like eyes, wearing a python robe, and with a black sparrow saber at his waist, walked in, knelt on both knees before Liu Changsheng, and prostrated himself, saying, "Your subject, Commander Shen Lian of the mysterious Black Guard, greets your Highness the Regent." Great Qin has 108 prefectures, with a population exceeding 3 billion. With such a vast territory and enormous population, the court simply could not manage everything, so most prefectures and counties were in a semi-autonomous state. The court only made decisions on some major matters, such as rebellions and natural disasters. The mysterious Black Guard, at that time, was established by Qin Ershi, Qin Hai, to control officials and monitor the world. Even after Qin Ershi was overthrown by his elder brother Qin Su, this system was continued. It can be said that the mysterious Black Guard was the sharpest blade in the hands of successive Qin emperors, and the commander of the mysterious Black Guard held an official rank of the 2nd grade. Every commander of the mysterious Black Guard was held by the emperor's most trusted marshal general, and Shen Lian was naturally no exception. He was utterly loyal to Emperor Ganming, willing to sacrifice his life for him. But Liu Changsheng merely slightly modified a portion of his memories, and he became Liu Changsheng's hidden agent in the Qin court, finally meeting his true master today. One must know that in the past, he would only kneel on one knee to Emperor Ganming, never prostrate himself completely. Rise, the mysterious Black Guard will continue as before. If any official flees Shenyang with their family, they shall be executed without mercy. Liu Changsheng's words were filled with evil qi. Yes. Shen Lian rose and accepted the order, his expression somewhat agitated. In his heart, he had always been enduring hardships, but now he had met a wise master, so he naturally wanted to perform well. Next, Liu Changsheng met with the commander of the Imperial Guards, the chief eunuch of the 12 bureaus, and others. For a period of time, he would stay in Shenyang Palace, and the people and matters that needed to be handled would certainly be arranged properly. Thousands of miles outside Shenyang City, above the 10,000 Zhang clouds. Martial gods from the 3 teachings and 6 sects and the 7 great clans gathered here, and upon learning that the Qin bloodline within Shenyang City had been completely purged, their hearts could not calm down for a long time. 2,000 years had passed, and finally, a figure like the first emperor had appeared in the world again. However, this was by no means a good thing for the various top forces. Since the Yellow Turban Rebellion, these forces' influence had rapidly increased. After so many years, they had always been like local emperors in their regions, even having their own laws and taxation systems. If Liu Changsheng intended to change dynasties, he would inevitably clash with these top forces. Because an invincible founding ancestral master would certainly not tolerate the existence of local separatist forces. And that Liu Changsheng was inherently extremely murderous, making the possibility of him ruling the world alongside aristocratic families and great sects very slim. Where would these top forces go from now on? Everyone, I have confirmed that Liu Changsheng is indeed the demon star mentioned by first-generation founder Tianjizi. A long-bearded Taoist wearing a 9-palace Taoist robe, a Taoist crown, and holding a whisk slowly walked over. The Taoist's eyes held boundless profound wisdom, just one glance seemed to make people sink into them. This Taoist was none other than the current pavilion master of Tianji Pavilion, Jai Xingzi. I never thought that great master Tianjizi's prophecy would actually be true. If we had known this, we would have acted earlier to nip Liu Changsheng in the bud. Why are we so passive now? An old man with a high forehead and a square cloth cap, looking like a great Confucian, shook his head and sighed. This was old ancestor Kong Josie of the Dongshan Kong clan, the foremost literary figure in Great Qin today, possessing unparalleled influence among scholars.